maps. You can stay on course with prize lists and daily course maps as well. The journey begins right where you're seated with that QR code.
Yeah, be sure not to miss out on the all-new Wellington International Shop located across from the Tiki Hut. Now, the Wellington International Shop is your ultimate destination for style. Explore our curated collection of merchandise that speaks to your passion. Visit the Wellington International Shop today and get your exclusive Winter Equestrian Festival gear. And catch the thrill live even if you can't be here with us in person. You can visit wellingtoninternational.com or tune in to the USEF Network for an exclusive front row seat to all FEI jumping events in the International Arena and the Mish Grand Hunter Ring to watch captivating hunter classes. Don't miss a moment of the action, whether you're a seasoned equestrian or a new fan. Watch the excitement unfold in real time. Saddle up and stream with us at wellingtoninternational.com.
Champion Equine Insurance. Unparalleled knowledge, integrity, and customer protection for your champion and the peace of mind you deserve. Champion Equine Insurance. Insure your champions with a champion.
It goes like this.
Equine Tack and Nutritionals is your one-stop shop for all of your stable and veterinary needs. As the official horse healthcare supplier of the Winter Equestrian Festival, we invite you to stop by and take advantage of our extensive inventory, discount prices, and unparalleled customer service. You can also shop on our website, www.equinetan.com, or stop by our store in Coconut Creek, Florida. You can also be reached at 1-800-833-TAC.
On this one, it is a horse that has literally been a part of the family for a long list of classes, right the way through from the top 5 stars to taking them into the next generation of riders here too. So as our tractors exit, we are going to be welcoming into the ring a fabulous horse with a wonderful career. And as we get set to start, ladies and gentlemen, this is a horse that certainly deserves all the accolades here tonight. And we'd like to welcome them into the arena as we get set to acknowledge a fabulous career of a horse called Mark Q. Ladies and gentlemen, a fabulous horse that we'd like to acknowledge the career of this very special horse. Mark Q, the former mount of both Kevin Babington and daughter Gwyneth Babington as well, at both the national and the international Grand Prix level. In 2010, Mark Q came to Babington Stable as an 8-year-old prospect from the Bournes family in Ireland. Kevin and Mark Q, as he's known in the barn, had an instant connection. From the start, Q had a lot of ability, raw talent and intelligence, but most importantly, a tremendous amount of heart. Kevin knew with a little time and effort, he could put the pieces together and rise to top level, and they did just that. Kevin and Mark Q's first big victory came in May of 2011 at the Devon Horse Show, with Babington's home base nearby at the time. And this was a very special win because of all the local fans and support. They came back to defend their title 5 years later, winning the same Grand Prix, and that second Devon Blue was Kevin's most favourite victory with Mark Q. Their early successes together propelled many more winning moments for years to come, bringing them victories in Saugerties in New York, Ocala, Lake Placid, and right here in Wellington as well. The pair also accumulated several top placings from the Split Rock shows to Spruce Meadows, the Hampton Classic, Penn National, and Silver Oak, to name but a few. In 2010, Gwyneth Babington took the reins, and Mark Q, with loads of experience under his belt, and Gwyneth, already an accomplished junior rider, ready to move up to the bigger classes. The two of them went on to great success together in the high junior division, young riders, under 25s, and up to international Grand Prix level. Hugh always knew the important moments when he had to step up to the plate. Whether it was through Kevin's best horse couldn't jump the big class, or when they really needed a win to get through a tough time, he always tried his heart out and got it done. The Gwyneth Hugh continued to exceed everyone's expectations, always game and ready to jump another clear round. Even in his older age, still jumping 2- and 3-star ranking classes at the age of 21. His willingness and love of the sport never faded, even up to his last class. I would like to invite the family to join for the ceremony here, and it is wonderful to see them with us. Kevin with us as well. And as we gather here tonight, also joined by Andrew Bournes, who was a part of that starting moments for this horse as well. The Babington family, Kevin, Diana, Gwyneth and Marielle, will now remove the saddle for the last time and pay a final tribute to Mark Q, not just as an athlete, but a forever member of the family. Kevin and the family joining now. Q has been so much more than a show horse. Has been a source of happiness and stability for them, not only during the good times, but all through much of the greater challenges as well. Anyone who's interacted with Mark Q on a daily basis knows how special this horse truly is, and has a way of making an impression on everyone with his personality, intelligence, and heart. And now the retirement cooler, presented by Alexandra Bartlett and Jay Flynn. On goes the cooler for a fabulous horse that's given so much to so many. And a well-earned retirement, as I say, having competed up to the age of 21 as Gwyneth hops off for the final time. And the Babington family and all connected would like to thank the people behind the scenes of Mark Q's success over the years. Veterinarians, Dr. David Adam of Bucks County Equine, and Dr. Bob Brucey of Palm Beach Equine as well. Blacksmiths Jay Flynn and Miley Connors, as well as equine bodyworker Bill Stanton. And ladies and gentlemen, now is the moment that will mark the final time in the competition arena for Mark Q at 22 years young. He'll retire healthy and happy at the Babington's farm here in Florida. Q loved this sport, loves the people even more. His legacy will live on in the memories that he and the Babingtons share together. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Farewell, Mark Q, and thank you for everything you gave us. One final shot with the family. And all the connections here. Kevin up front. Horse has brought some very special moments for them all. And continued to. Perfect position for one tough final time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to the Babingtons. They say thank you, and all of us say thank you to Mark Q. We wish you the best and a very enjoyable, relaxed retirement. right, again the animation kindly sponsored by Fidelity Investments. Take a look at Nick Granite's course for this Southern Archers Grand Prix. Starting over near the International Club, over the green hurdles and poles, and a straightforward start as they come to fence 2 at the Wolfer International fence at the vertical there at 1.52 m. Down to the top end of the arena on a roll back now to the first real related line at 3 and 4. Distance of 4 strides, a little bit of a stretch out here, and it is to the orange Liverpool at fence 4 at the next 1.50 m, 160 in spread. Triple combination coming up pretty early in the course this time at 5 A, B and C. 1 stride between each of those elements. 1.60 m in spread on the middle part, and then down to 6 on 5 strides at 1.50 m, 170 in spread is the aim for here. Turning back past the in-gate to fence 7 at this point, and just short of 160 at our next, and then a related distance of 6 strides up to 8 A and B. 1 stride distance again in there at 7.90 m. Up to then the yellow and grey stones at fence 9. Again an oxer here, 150, 165, and then we start to head for home. Fence 10, 150, 165 again at the gold colours with the golden planks, and at 11 the red and white colours with the then white plank on top at 11. Final line coming to 12 and 13. 4 strides down to the last fence, the Southern Arches fence at the last, 152 and 170 in spread to complete. Please allow us to take a moment to honour the loss of Alan Chesler to the equine industry. A man who began riding with D Troop at the New York Military Academy, competing in his native Canada and then to America, while also being the president of a flourishing business, one we see every day today, Bob's Barricades. His strong friendship with Gene Mish at stadium jumping here in Wellington would be a major part of building what has been here today, known as WEF. He himself having competed in the high amateur divisions which he helped build, and soon his successful Shirel farm was born, and on the road his family went. He competed in the low amateurs with their Sunday Grand Prix, held here in the very international arena, and his daughter Frankie also then going on to compete for the Canadian team. He helped provide stepping stones for young riders and young horses as well. He was a big part of the inception of the Global Champions Tour that started here in Wellington as well, along with Jan Tops, and went on to worldwide success. And on that very day, Frankie Chesler would finish second to someone better known as McLean Ward. A magnum champagne was enjoyed by all, and indeed, Alan was a visionary in the equine industry. His presence will be profoundly missed, and he will go on to live in the hearts of those that knew him forever. The horse world recently lost one of the great horsemen, rider, trainer and friend to so many, William Barr, who helped some of the greatest riders, from Scott Stewart to Peter Leone to Carlton Brooks to Anne Kaczynski. The list goes on. He lived in Europe for many years and became chef de keep for the Greek teams for both their juniors, and going on then to medals at the Balkan Games and Pan-Hellenic Championships. He oversaw the building of Windley Farm in Millbrook, New York, an extraordinary 175-acre equestrian facility training over 50 horses. He trained over 10 riders through USEF and Maclay Championships, qualifying for some of those prestigious shows in the country, Devon, Harrisburg and Washington, and most notably trained Amsterdam, the regular confirmation hunter, and James Bond in the regular working hunter to success after success. Anne Kaczynski rode Leon 94 for Billy too, not only winning in regular classes but also over the Puissance wall. From gold medalists onwards, they will all feel the loss as we pay tribute to Bill Barr. Ladies and gentlemen, may we take a moment to remember both William Barr and Alan Chesler.
Yeah, tonight we'll have the national anthem performed by Taylor Hughes. Yeah, Taylor joining us tonight, owner of Taylor Made Cafe, a longtime competitor here at Wellington International. Yeah, Taylor Made Cafe is a comfortable, casual place to get fresh food made with only the best ingredients. Not only does Taylor have a passion for her cafe, but she also loves to sing. She has sung the anthem at many equestrian competition venues and is always excited to do it again. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you all please rise if you are able and remove cover for the Star Spangled Banner tonight, performed by Taylor Hughes.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight all the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Well, Taylor Hughes, thank you very, very much.
Well, a very good evening and welcome to the first real serious Saturday night here in Wellington. And we are going to be heading into our first Grand Prix of the year. And as I say, we saw last week into the Premier Week with the Battle of the Sexes, National Grand Prix on to the Well, coming up, our first of those for the night is quite the introduction. It is McLean Ward to start us off, and actually a very strong start in the Grand Prix here. We've got 3 of the world's top 10 to start us into this class with McLean Ward, Kent Farrington and Ben Mayer. Now, slightly different this season because qualifying for the Grand Prix, the qualifier, the WEF Challenge Cup, they're going to go in reverse order of that. This group came out of pre-qualifying, so going early. McLean Ward, world number 9 with Robin Parsky's First Lady. Now with the 11-year-old mare by Don Diorado, superb combination together, and McLean, another fantastic 2023. Of course, we saw here with successes, but then going on to Team Gold at the Pan Ams and individual bronze there as well. So a pathfinder here around the track, and delighted to say on the journey tonight with me is Ali Wolf. Ali, very good evening.
Very good evening. It's nice to be here again.
So who best to look around this course with? First couple of fences gives them plenty of room there, and then this is where it starts to get a little bit more serious at the wall.
Yeah, exactly. This is kind of the first test. I think it's going to be a ride up for a lot of horses. The wall's really going to hold them, and then the Liverpool kind of going into the corners is also going to hold them. So it's a strong ride. You know, Nick Granite designed this course. He does a great job asking a lot of questions. It's very careful, very delicate out tonight. And again, this is a very large 3-star, especially right to start us off the bat week 1.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see the time allowed of 78 seconds here, and these 3 in front are going to give a very good indicator of how that's going to play out.
Yeah, who better than to start your Grand Prix than to see McLean and Kent and Ben to kind of start you off. That's a little bit of a false sense of hope, I think, as well.
Well, here's one of the tricky ones. Little plank there coming into the final run here. Then this final related line as we take a look down to 13, finishing over the Southern Arches fence in this Southern Arches Grand Prix. Now, he's gone round in 74.68. Terrific start for McLean Ward and clear. Ali, I won't nail it so much as that's what we expect, but it pretty well is.
Yeah, if you wanted to see how it rides, just watch him. Probably sure Kent will do the same, but that was beautiful start off for the first first horse to go in the class. That's a really good confident round, and especially from a horse that we kind of haven't really seen much of him doing some of those bigger classes with.
Yeah, it's a horse that's been stepped up nicely. He had a nice run in Toronto. Team wins at the Desert Horse Park as part of Major League, as has this man through the season, the world number 3. We've got number 9, 3 and 2 in the world starting us off. Ken Farrington, number 3 on Tulane, which is a fabulous horse, had a wonderful win in Geneva. If you watched that a few weeks ago, flew round like a jet plane, fantastic. Finished 4th in the Hampton Classic Grand Prix. Tulane now 10 years of age, the mare by Toulon for Kent Farrington. And the Rabbit Root Stables, again on that same team at the Pan Ams for gold in Santiago back into October, November of last year. Individual silver, though, for Kent Farrington on that occasion. This is a pair that won the Grand Prix at Angel Stone as part of Major League last year as well, and it's been a really serious prospect. So we've had our Pathfinder around, McLean Wards, but it's not as smooth sailing as it looks around this course, is it?
No, it's not. And again, I think, that was a false sense of security maybe for a few riders. I know this line is really your first test. Really a test of bravery and then carefulness. That's a really big square oxer coming up the hill. You'll see this horse. Kent's done a great job. He has a big string of horses, so he can kind of play around with his string, but he's done a great job of kind of bringing her back up and then taking her back down, working a little bit on rideability and confidence, and then putting her back up in those big classes, really scheduling each horse individually for the class that they can have a best chance of winning. And I think that's going to actually ride like a really scopy line there.
Yeah.
That double is kind of coming uphill. You saw both horses really kind of stretch far over that teal oxer coming into the double. I think if you're not careful, we'll see a lot of back rails there. And then an easy 7. That plank is really, really delicate. It's very hard to see as you're approaching it. And then the last line, really kind of a steady 4. His horse has a little bit of a smaller stride, so he was able to package well. And again, master class.
Absolutely. So neatly round Ken Farrington and Tulane, as I say, they've been jumping brilliantly in the 5-stars, 3-star Grand Prix this week, but it is no easy play to meet for anyone here either. But they're just taking this nicely in their stride, which they should do with this pair.
Yeah, exactly. And it is, I think, important to note in this class that this class also acts as a certificate of capability for some horses. So a compulsory couple verticals at 1.55 m. So it is technically can be qualified as a 4-star. I know Nick set about 4 verticals at 1.55 m or a little bit above. So that's a huge test, especially for your first time out under the lights.
Now, see if the third can follow this up. And as I say, it's a little bit deceptive with this early run because we've got Ben Mayer, who's the world number 2. Pamela Wright, Charlotte Rosters, and his own Anjou de Grecienne. And interesting, again, a 10-year-old that actually is a 9-year-old, just at the end of last year, won the London World Cup qualifier, was second in the World Cup qualifier in Madrid, and now for the Olympic champion, has just gone so nicely with, actually, this is the next horse in the line by Toulon as well.
I think it'll be fun tonight to kind of see some of the sires. You kind of start to get a feel of which sires are leading the pack for each year. We start to see a little bit more and more of the Toulons. They're really, really good jumpers. Again, for Ben as well, it's nice that he has such a big string. He can kind of play around, save some of those bigger horses for later on in circuit, and then kind of pull these ones out, see where they are, test their limits here, scope. It's a big crowd tonight, a lot of atmosphere. This is really a true first test of the circuit.
And again, a little bit deceptive with the way these go round. Anjou is another forward-going horse, time allowed of 78 seconds, bearing in mind McLean's gone round in 74, Kent in 73. These guys will cope with that very well. Ben on this horse rode an absolute masterclass to win the World Cup qualifier in London against Scott Brash, so it shows it wasn't a giveaway from that point of view. He should sit there about mid-70s by that point of view, and he's taking a little bit steadily down. He's going to be about 75, 76 by the time he crosses the line. There we go, 76.21. Nice enough, Ben Mayer, Anjou de Grecienne. But that's 3 out of 3, but it is 3 of the top 10 in the world.
Exactly, and I don't think you'll get an accurate number maybe watching the first 3 go of how many are clear or how many are expected clear tonight. Nick always says that he refuses to give you an estimate of how many he expects to go clear, so we'll just have to kind of guesstimate for ourselves. But again, that was a master class in riding. Third one to go, nail the course. The time allowed looks pretty okay. As the course goes along, Nick plays a lot with the kind of crown of the ring going up and down, and then the carefulness at the end.
And this is what you're talking about. Okay, we're coming out very strong with the early group, and then we've got horses like this one coming into their first 3-star Grand Prix together. Sloane Coles and Ninja, Belgian-bred mare by Elvis Tuput, an 11-year-old for the Ninja group. Really good 2-star record. Is ready to make that next move up here, and it's always a big move making it up under the lights here in Wellington.
Yeah, especially under the lights, jumping some of those meter 55, you'll get to see if the horse has scope for kind of going up and up. Again, a little bit of a newer partnership. I know she's really done a great job of trying to build up her string a little bit. And she's a great rider, good fighter. And she's really a great one to kind of guide the horses around the course, especially for the first time.
And again, to give a little prelude to people watching as well, we'll just not have it working out the way they wanted down there. We've got combinations like this into their first 3-star Grand Prix. We've got Adrian Sterlick with the experience Benny's Legacy. We've got a number of the teenagers coming in here too. So it's going to be a really mixed group across there in terms of experience and how it comes together. Yeah,
it's always fun to see kind of the initial couple Grand Prix. You typically see, those experienced riders pulling out those younger horses. January 1 acts as another year older, so they aged the next year. We get to see what our next prospects are. But then you get to see those kind of younger kids kind of moving up from the U25 or from the junior ranks and kind of getting their feet wet in these classes. And that was really too bad. She had the C element and then just really went to try and steady and almost looked like she steadied a little bit too much.
So Sloane, first time out there, finishing on the 4 with Ninja. And as you say, it's getting the reactions here as we take a little look back at this.
Yeah, and she knows that this is a little bit of a hard horse in the mouth. She really needs to set it up, and I think she maybe overestimated exactly how much she really needed to set up. Almost looked like she was kind of trying for the 6 strides there. The horse left in the 5. Other than that, the recovery was great, and she looks like she has a solid horse for the rest of circuit. Absolutely, put a good round behind them with that. And as you say, finishing there too with a little bit of time on top of there as well. So Hoy Mat Cap d'Ivia, and another rider who featured at the Pan Ams last year as well. They were not too far away back into, let's say, start of November. In fact, this was their last outing together with winning good in terms of the FEI. Fabulous combination of being together since 2022. By winning mood. World Championship rider before now as well, and has really built a partnership with this horse now that came on, went very successfully, of course, with Emily Moffat that everybody watched, and then when she stepped out of the sport, this is great to see this horse go on again. Yeah, and it's really, a great confidence boost that you buy a horse that's been seen, under the likes of Ben Mayer. Emily Moffat really paired well with this horse. She took it into a bunch of Nations Cups, jumped a ton of double clears. So this horse has been there, done that. It has the capability of anything he wants to do. It was too bad. He kind of came in maybe a little bit too hot into the A element and just casually had it down. Again, for a few, like I say, this pairing, really last time big competition out was the Pan Am Games. Some of them have just taken a little bit of a step back, a little bit of breather. Okay, we've had some 4-star shows, 3-star shows here in Wellington in the run-up. There's lots going on in the run-up to the tail end of the year, but some have elected, okay, you've done a big championship, rightly so, take a breather. Exactly, and especially in his home country, that's huge. That's a huge weight, a lot of pressure, a lot of excitement. I'm sure he gave the horse a well-deserved break off. Working with Dara, he's a smart horseman. And, just giving the horse kind of an easy night out. Just kind of seeing where you are for circuit. Again, planning your circuit now, strategizing what your next couple of horse shows or Grand Prix are going to look like. But, he's not going to be worried with a fence like that. That horse is so great. For jumping one time, Derek Kenny, by the way, is going to be the man that goes last in this because he won the qualifier, the WEF Challenge Cup earlier on this week as well, the Equine sponsored class. So he is going to come up as last. So he gets prime position. He jumped himself into that as part of this Southern Arches Grand Prix. Thanks to them as well. They're all about horses, team and sport. And so Spencer Smith's now. Spencer with Theodore Marseille. And, last year winners in the WEF Challenge Cup. They've actually been a Grand Prix winning combination here before now as well. That was back into 2018. Horse with a bit more experience on the line now, 17 years of age.
And, well, last jumped FEI middle of last year as well, from that point of view, for the Ashland Farms.
This has been a great partnership, these two. He knows this horse so well. And again, kind of stepping into an easy, well, we say easy, but
start of season.
Let's
go start of season. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it's start of season.
Maybe a little bit of a smaller or smoother Grand Prix just to kind of start you off. You know, he has a lot more in his string now, which is nice. He can kind of take the pressure off this one. This one being a little bit older, you want to pick and choose your classes.
But he still had to drive a little bit down to the water there.
Yeah, and I think, again, I think that line is a little bit deceiving. I think we might see some issues with that, at least the front rail of that Liverpool Oxer. You know, a lot of the horses seeing that wall for the first time, it being fence 3, comes up really early in the course. We might see a lot of issues there. But again, this horse is, I think, 17 years old, so he should have kind of been there, done that, seen that. And again, a great partnership. They trust each other so well.
Yeah, 5-star Grand Prix winning combination on the Global Champions Tour back before now as well.
Looks like he's going to steady up in the 7. And this last line is just going to be a really easy steady 4, really, really delicate. That's the 150, I think he said 157 it measures, and down to the last Oxer.
Yeah. Yeah, last Oxer with a 170 spread on it, but yes, you're absolutely right. Penultimate fence, the Mars fence at 157 as well. And adding to the clears, and the usual suspects are starting to come to the top right now. Spencer Smith producing the clear round with Theodore Marseille, so gives us our 4th clear.
Yeah, walking this course, I mean, this is no give out. This is a tough track. It asks a lot of questions. It's super delicate. I mean, you know, the poles and the specs that we use today, all it takes is just a very light rub, a very unfortunate light rub, and it's down and you have the 4-fault. So, I mean, even with a 4-fault round, even with an 8-fault round, that's still a great round. It's just, it's a long way around, very delicate, asks a lot of questions, forward and collection.
12-year-old Frida for Grant Sager now, and pairing that finished well in the Equine Grand Prix into November of last year, and now again really getting their groove going again. A little bit of a look at that Wolfer vertical at that point. And again, it's getting back into this atmosphere. Some will have been used to it if you've been up to Tryon or some of those shows. Some may have stepped into more of those big open outdoor shows, and it's a little bit more distant from you.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note a lot of these horses may also have come off of an indoor circuit. Again, we see A come down. It's just so delicate. They come off an indoor circuit, really, really, really small arenas. Again, very light, delicate fences, and then you ask them to step into a huge arena, a ton of atmosphere. These new movable billboards, that's a lot to see.
But again, it's a regular thing at big shows now. You know, it's again, this is where it's a good step up in there to get used to that for those other European shows or the bigger 5-stars that they'll feature in.
Exactly, and we saw him a lot in Michigan, and you know, Michigan's a pretty big ring. They do get quite the atmosphere. He's gotten used to that a little bit. Just looked like he kind of interrupted the canter rhythm after that teal double. The horse really had to stretch for the back rail of the Oxer and just had that down, as well as the last. Again, same thing, just really had to stretch for that back rail.
12 jumping one time, 78.97, so touches over the time allowed for Grant Sager and Frida from that point of view, so puts time on there as well. Total of 13 for Grant. Look back here through the triple combination. And first fence down there, it's going to look a long way down that line at that point.
Yeah, exactly. But they're all actually riding the course quite nice. You know, we now are starting to see a little bit where those delicate poles are going to start coming down. But I think overall Nick did a great job kind of easing you into the course, kind of starting that time allowed from 1 to 2, and then starting, you know, moving forward off the leg, and then a collection straight to that triple combination coming home. That's very, very easy. All the horses really kind of want to run through that.
Erin Bellard of Canada, Alain Ferder's game over. 13-year-old horse, but it really just been getting more experience because last year was jumping in the 2-star Grand Prix, won one of those in Vancouver up at Thunderbird. Had a good solid run for Erin at Thermal at the last part of the year as well. At the Big Fight, 2 weeks of 5-star shows there over in California. She had success herself, finishing second in the Grand Prix in Monterey in the 5-star there in November as well. But again, for this horse, this is another step up. But again, with the age of this horse, it's now time to really get going.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we saw the really, really forward four. You know, when the horses hold up over the wall, she really had to press forward and then really collect him back again for that delicate downhill triple combination. She's no stranger to the big stuff. This horse is maybe a little bit. So she's really kind of helping guide it. And again, she had to ride really hard into that oxer to get across the back rail, and just kind of unfortunately had B part just because of that. But I know they have really high hopes for this horse.
Yeah, just started to get a bit stretched out at that point.
Exactly, and that's exactly what he wants kind of these guys to do. A lot of questions asked, shortening, lengthening, really collect. And again, this horse, I think, is kind of some of the bigger jumps that this horse has kind of seen in his life. So I think they'll be really thrilled with that. And unfortunately, the last rail, because I said that.
It is on a total of 874, 78, but like I say, a nice step up for Game Over. And the well-experienced World Championship rider Erin Ballard of Canada. So for them, it puts them on to a score of 8 inside the time allowed of 78 seconds. Take off at the last, but it is a big stretch at 170 at that final fence there, which unfortunately they just don't quite make. Early run to the wall, but it's noticeable, and I've seen the walls included a lot more again in the last 12 months. The course designers tend to put them early. I've only, I think, one occasion I've seen it go later in the field. It's tend to be around about 2-3 in the field, which is an interesting prospect. Roberto Teran. And Roberto, he himself finishing individual 7th at the Pan American Games down in Santiago last year as well on the 12-year-old DSP Callas. And the German-bred horse by Keskeni II. Former rider, actually, of André Thieme, the European champion from 2021, and, of course, winner of a number of the $1 million classes here in the United States. And a new one came on the grid last year, and that was at the Desert Horse Park in California. He finished 4th with Wakita in the Coachella Cup there for Roberto Teran. So finished the year well. It's now about keeping the momentum going. But for this horse, again, it's a horse that's now going to get a little bit more exposure. The other horses he's used, like Des Octouf, that's taken him right the way through to big championships. Here we go again.
Yeah, exactly. And he can rest that one now. That one's a little bit older. It's been there, done that. Kind of doesn't need to do some of these classes yet. But for Roberto just to kind of stay in the ring, you know, this is a great horse to add to his string. Again, a little bit experienced. That's unfortunate. He just kind of looked like he didn't really stretch across that back rail. Maybe Roberto was just thinking it's a really steady one stride to that C element and cut down a little bit. And here's going to be another big stretch. And he rode that nice. And again, it's nice to have another horse that has some experience. You know, you bring along a lot of young horses and babies, and you can hold their hand around the course, but then you get on a horse that you can kind of trust, let out around some of these courses, really kind of take a shot. You know, there's really nice to kind of have that in your back pocket to have another horse, and that was too bad. That last fence is really
It is getting tricky. Yeah. Finished on a score of 875.39 for DSP Callas and Roberto Teran. It's a big stretch to it. The distance to the last is pretty standard, though.
Yeah, it kind of walks a little bit short in the 4. You know, you're coming home. It's a little bit on that downhill that we were just talking about. Some horses, if they back off the Liverpool, that's going to give you a better edge for that 4 stride. Other horses, if they kind of jump in a little bit far, you know, it's just a very short 4. And off that short 4, to have pushed that far across such a wide oxer at the end of the course when they've been stretching and pushing and galloping, that's just a lot.
And you can see where Nick's played that. If he'd given you a longer distance to run at there, it just actually helps you, as opposed to I'm just going to test you a little bit more to use that power.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fun to see kind of the 2 4s that he used, you know, the longer one in the beginning. He kind of wants to unravel you a little bit and then test your rideability after that and put you back together again at the end of the course.
Sarah Siegel, Horatio Street Ventures, Flintstone, the 14-year-old Dutch-bred gelding by Mr. Blue for Sarah.
Sarah's had a good partnership with this horse. She's had a few that she's kind of able to jump some big FEI classes with. Partnering with Chris Kapler, you know, that's great tutelage anyway. And they've really done a great job of kind of finding her some of these horses to get her, keep her in that ring. It's really important as a rider to kind of keep yourself in the ring, keep yourself riding to these fences. really stretched for that back rail, and then just had C down. And that's, I think, what a little bit Roberta was trying to protect from, that C element, and just didn't stretch. So, you know, you ask for the stretch across B, you might have C. You ask for the horse to come back right after B, and you might have the back rail. So it's really about knowing your horse, and then I was thinking that we would see that one come down as well. And just rubbed the front rail. After all that ask of big stretches, getting across the fences, then these front poles of these oxers really become delicate. She has such a big horse. I was wondering to see some of those 6 strides to that plank. Her horse is so big it just eats the stride. Was that 3?
Yeah, it was. Total of 12. 78.82. In fact, it's going to be a total of 13 because there's one time fall to go on top of that as well for Sarah Siegel and Flintstone. Overall thoughts on that, Ali?
Yeah, clearly she knows her horse well. That was too bad, you know. She had to ask for a huge stretch to get across that oxer. He came back nice for B, but then by that time he was just a little bit out in front of her for that front rail at number 9. But again, she knows his horse so well. He's a little bit slower across the ground. She needs to figure out places to make up time, and she did that leaving out to the last 2.
A couple of the teenagers coming up now. Caroline Mawhinney, the 19-year-old, with Kasi Z. In fact, 18 is this on here. And it is going to be Caroline, who's been already a prolific winner under the tutelage of Jessica Mendoza and has been stepping up with that already this week, putting some number 1 spots here this week on week 1 already to her name. And 2022 Team Junior Gold, and now is very much on the right trajectory. Kasi Z, actually former ride of Henrik von Eckermann, the world number 1.
Yeah, I've watched this horse a little bit. I really like the type. It's very bouncy, very adjustable. It does look like it gets strong throughout the course and very energetic, so she really kind of has to be careful packaging it back up again, but also kind of thinking about that time allowed. And she's gotten the rideability and figured out the bridle. It's really nicely coming together. And she's got a great string of horses, so I know this one is quite a newer one. It's exciting for her to kind of get back into this ring with a new mount. And she does a nice job of keeping him together. You know, it's at this point in the course that he really starts to want to run a little bit faster, so she really has to try hard to kind of package him back up again, especially for this 7. And I think that's just the result of him getting a little bit boundy by the end of the course.
And again, it's a pairing that haven't really done this like this before here in Wellington. So it's not a bad start. Finishing on just on the 4, 76.33, inside the time for Caroline Mawhinney and Kasi Z to get them off to a good running pace for the season. And again, you want a good start here, and it's not always about having the big win in week 1. That's very nice, but usually it's a progressive ladder, isn't it? And that plank's just going to drop very, very easily.
Yeah, exactly. And she's only had this horse, I think, for a couple months now. Just getting to know the partnership. You know, I wonder if she's even ever done this horse under the lights. That's a completely different ball game. So this was a good testament to kind of see where they are, and I would say that was quite successful.
Mia Bagnato now 17 years of age. Ballier Skill, Big Bucks, former ride of Jordan Coyle. Irish bred horse, in fact, back to the line of Royal Concord and Lux. And, well, they were placed in the 2 stars up in Ottawa in Canada. She's now started doing the under-25s as well. And this is another big night for her.
Yeah, and then again, you know, we were talking in the beginning, we start to see some younger kids kind of moving up a little bit. It's nice to see these horses have kind of been there, done that. It's a great partnership. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of miscommunication for that. But
this is where this is going to be a learning curve as well.
Exactly. You know, you wouldn't call this a failure by any means. You know, this is just a great learning curve. She knew she had to jump in very easy. It's a big horse, big stride, super scopy. You know, maybe she just overdid that a little bit and then didn't quite add the leg to get across that she maybe hasn't experienced in the night class. You know, some of the horses that are so bold and so brave during the daytime can kind of sink a little bit behind your leg, and that's not really what you're used to. So this is how you learn.
Come on. There we go. Yeah. steadily, but got there.
Exactly.
And now you've got to build the confidence and go again, haven't you?
Yes, exactly. I thought she actually rode that really well. Really sat behind him and kind of drove forward. She trusted the scope. The scope's going to get you up and across. Just the confidence with the leg. And, you know, at this point, if it has rails, whatever, you know, this is, again, a nice learning curve to figure out kind of where you are, what you want to jump in next.
And now the point is just come home steady, bring it home with a positive finish.
Yeah, this is, you know, this horse has tons of scope, tons of stride. It obviously can do these classes, and obviously she can do these classes, so I'm sure you'll see them more during circuit.
Yeah, good recovery there for Mia Bagnato and Ballia Skill Big Bucks, as we say, learning curve, just 17 years of age, and this is a big stage for them, but this is how you learn. It doesn't always start perfectly, but that's what you build from there. Mia Bagnato with time to add there as well for them. Next week we'll see a National Grand Prix on to Saturday night as well. That's going to be an interesting one. That's always one there. We again get a mix of those that are getting experience. Looking out for some of those next generation horses as well, and even riders in there too, which will be another good prospect. 25-year-old Spencer Britton now. And Stacken 4. The one horse that he jumps through FEI classes, and actually very successfully, finished top 10 in the World Cup qualifier in Texas, also finished 5th in both Grand Prix here in November and December. And you'd hope we'd come in here then with a bit of confidence for the Ammon Equestrian-owned horse.
Yeah, he's now, you know, had a significantly long partnership with this horse, knows it really well, has done very well in some of these Grand Prix. It's allowed him to kind of get back into the ring, and this horse kind of has a unique style, but it kind of knows where it is over the fences, and Spencer's kind of used to that at this point, and you know, they mesh really well. This is a great partnership. Really just trusted the 4. You didn't have to ride strong at all. This horse is really a little bit at the fences, very brave, so he's just focusing really hard on trying to keep it together, and then at the end of that you kind of have to worry about the time allowed. Yeah, that's a really short 5. The horse does a nice job of really stretching across some of these oxers. Sometimes, you know, his type and style of jumping, maybe a little bit what you would say, a little bit kind of not so great in the front end, but it really allows him actually to stretch across the back, but didn't quite get across that teal.
Just sitting on the 4 at the moment for Spencer coming into the final line. Take them again, long run back down the arena. And this is where he's testing your delicacy in the latter part of the course. How much fuel have you got in the tank? How much energy is still there?
Yeah, and again, you know, for delicate fences, same thing. It's just it's a very wide oxer. I think the horses don't really judge it very well, especially with those poles that kind of blend into the background. And then again, you're asking a horse to push off a short stride. And so with these delicate fences, you don't want to approach them on a big stride. You want to collect them. But again, at the end of the course, you're also thinking, man, I need to make up the time allowed somewhere.
Goes for the reach and leaves them on the 8 faults there for Spencer. And Stacken 4 just got inside the time. 77.38, but gritted teeth and effort all the way down the triple combination to the MS fence. Now on to a man who's been certainly of the moment here, Jad Dana. Representing Lebanon, been here in the United States for quite some time now, was previously up at Spruce Meadows in Canada, working with Leslie Howard on this horse owned by Peter Howard and Laurie Sadro, Caro W. And Jad winner here last week as well, and actually won the Win 50 class at this show this time last year too, but has continued to win several big classes here in Wellington.
Yeah, he's a very fast rider. You can never discount him, especially when he gets into the jump-offs. You know, he has a style of horse, you know, that kind of a more blood horse, the one that kind of takes you a little bit small, a little sporty. And you can kind of always see that he got tutelage from Leslie, you know, the traditional, no martingale, rides a little bit on the forward stride, a little American kind of in the 2-point, little American classic style of riding. But he is a very, very fast, very competitive rider. Just got down the 6 almost a little bit too early, and he just had to steady for that oxer, which allowed the horse not to push as hard across. And again, he also has built up his string a little bit, as you know, he has a few horses to jump in some of the bigger classes. I think he's kind of bringing this one a little bit along to join the others. So far, it's looking pretty successful.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's reaching a point now. He's probably going to have at least 2, if not 3, eventually at the level that he can go at those Grand Prix with. Just didn't happen at the last there. Finishes on a score of 8 at 77.44 for Jadana. And Caro W, as I say, coming in though on after a win here last week.
Yeah, it's like I think he knew he was going to have a little issue at fence 13, and you know, maybe didn't steady up enough to then ride forward. He kind of rode forward right from the get-go and just got a little bit up underneath it and then couldn't stretch across the back.
Adrian Sterlicht with the experienced 16-year-old Benny's Legacy. World Cup qualifying winning horse with a World Championship rider. Adrian walking the horse here, getting some training from Jeroen Dubbeldam as well. The former European, world and Olympic gold medalist. It's a great eye to have in your corner too. Of course, she's worked with some of the very best in the sport over what's been a good career so far, but that is not the start you'd expect.
No, unfortunately not. And she's gotten a lot of younger horses, or a little bit of a greener horse combination, and this is kind of her horse that she's had a longer partnership with, and typically, you know, she can pretty much rely on him. That first fence is a little bit spooky, going away from home, you know, a little bit. It's just not having it tonight.
No, and it's not really something we've ever really seen from him either before. So there's something obviously not keen on there.
Yeah, and he, you know, we know he's talented. We know he can jump it. You know, with those talented horses also kind of comes a little bit of quirk sometimes, and you know, so sometimes that can kind of come out, especially at night when they're a little bit nervous, a little bit extra stressed, and that's unfortunate. But you know, he doesn't have to prove anything.
He's got nothing to prove at all. No, and probably will come out in a couple of weeks' time and will be absolutely fine. But just has crept in there with Benny's Legacy, unfortunately. Well, we'll move on swifter than we expected to Ashley Vogel then. And for the 22-year-old, the US rider with Ceres van Het Mooshoff. And on this French-bred mare by Organo Seat. Jumped well round for 4 faults in the Ottawa Grand Prix in the summer. Trains with Shane Sweetnam. And again, it's this horse and partnership that again are pushing up more. Of course, she had very big success with Bellissimo Z. And now she's again, like you were talking about with several others, extending that string and into the next generation of them as well.
Yeah, and she's actually really added a few horses to her string. She's really got a nice string at the moment. I think this was a newer partnership than some of her other ones. Again, this horse has kind of been there a little bit, done that a hair, maybe not so much with her, so she's going to see what she has in this kind of atmosphere, in this kind of class. I know she was in Traverse City, she went over to Europe a little bit, so she's kind of been all across the world this past summer, gotten a lot of experience, and this is a great up-and-coming horse for her. You know, training with Shane as well, like he really does a great job of mounting his riders well with these great scopy horses, confidence horses. He takes his time. Sometimes he'll show them for a year or so, kind of get them in there, get them ready. Unfortunately had A and C. Maybe just came in a little bit with too much energy, too much momentum, too forward. And I think that's also same thing, kind of came out a little bit too forward as well.
Again, looking at partnerships that are possibly first time under the lights, with the big crowd in here as well. There's been a couple of opportunities to get under the lights pre-2024 at the tail end. But again, getting the bigger crowds in here also adds to that atmosphere and the flair of it.
Exactly, and just like we were talking about, some horses that might shrink under the lights, other horses might become more aggressive. Yep. So you have no idea until you start jumping that first fence what you're going to get. And
some will just eventually just get used to it. There we go. Finishes well. It's a score of 12, 75-32. As you say, a little bit of an exploratory mission with some of this too, with Ashley Vogel there, building the partnership with Ceres van Het Mooshoff. As I say, good run at the tail end of last year. Now getting to their stride for 2024. Just unfortunately, this was the combination that did the early scoring damage.
Yeah, again, this horse, really wants to take you to the fence, which is a great feeling. But along the course, you start to learn little bit as well. Maybe the placement, the different placement where you want the horse to take off, what you might be used to during the daytime, it may have changed. So I think she kind of learned as she went on, and it really, really came nicely together.
23-year-old Michaela Langmeyer now, and Michaela with the Rafty Farms at Shadina. Finished well in Ocala in December as well, in the 150s there. And Michaela really, again, has been moving a new set of horses up into this level, isn't she?
Yeah, exactly. We've seen her a lot in the junior ranks. She's getting great tutelage under Katie and Henri Prudent. She's had great success, a lot in Michigan. I think they spent a lot of their summer there.
Yeah.
Really developed these horses into, now 3-star contenders.
And again, that's where it's good from that point of view in those early learning years with a partnership as well. And you've been through this. You go to somewhere like Traverse City that has a wonderful mix of shows that you can do and levels, but you can stay in one place so they can start to get used to the ring, get used to the level, get used to what's involved before you start those years where you might be dotting around a bit more with a bit more pressure.
Yeah, you can kind of take out the new wow factor that the horse might see these things for the first time and start to focus on your own rideability, what you might need to do, quicken your jump offs. Unfortunately, like a horse like this is a little bit same thing at the fences, which is great, but sometimes through those triple combinations just lands and wants to take her a little bit more than she was hoping or expecting to, and had C in that following oxer down. And she's really doing a great job and also fighting to kind of keep this horse balanced and in check. You saw a last check right before that oxer, but that last oxer was no problem to her.
Finished on a total of 8 this time for Michaela Langmeyer and Shadina. Time was okay at 75.88, puts her into ninth spot at the moment. So sticking at the 4 clears at the moment, McLean Ward, Kent Farrington, Ben Mayer and Spencer Smith. 4 very experienced combinations. Like we said, it was then going to start moving around. And remember too that we're going in reverse order of that WEF qualifier from earlier on this week. So when we get into the second half of this class, and like the days where it was seeded that way, it is seeded that way in the way that they've jumped into a good position. It means they had a really good round earlier on this week as well. Zaina Rizvi now, another of the teen stars, the exquisite group's Esquisse de Pachy. Jumped good double clear up in the Grand Prix in the 4-star in Sogates as well last year. And again, should set them up in good stead here for a rider who was on the Nations Cup previously to last season as well, into Portugal and in Spain.
Yeah, Zaina's had a stellar year, like a real breakout year. Really started moving up into those FEI classes, and not just moving up into them, but being competitive, really competitive. She had a great tour over in Europe. Great experience with some of those Nations Cups, and it looks like we probably will be seeing her on maybe some of those senior teams later on.
Mm-hmm.
She has a great string of horses, John and Missy, great trainers, really kind of get her that experience with the horses underneath her. Rode that well, really had to stretch across that orange oxer, but she knows this horse so well. She really trusts it to get her across, especially coming towards that in-gate. Needs to push a little bit for the back rail of this one, and no problem. Again, you can just see how much she trusts this horse, where others are kind of having to run out the fences a little bit to just make that back rail. This horse really stretches well across the back rail, so she doesn't necessarily have to worry so much about that. Just the front, just the front a little bit. That plank, we haven't seen it come down as much, but always a factor, especially with the light, delicate material.
Finishes on the 475.95. Fifth place at the moment, Zaina Rizvi. Quick 4 from her with Esquisse de Pachy. So she abuts the clear round, so she's still in prize money position at the moment, but just flicks that plank away. It's an old trick in the book, the plank up there, but you guys have got pretty smart to it these days as well.
Yeah, they throw everything at us now. Those planks, I mean, you breathe on them, they come down, and sometimes they're on upside-down cups, so you even swish it with the tail and it's coming down. sometimes the wind blows it down. So that's just how delicate they are.
We take account of that, though. Lucy Delorier, and now building up a new partnership, because we saw so many years with the fabulous Hester through to the Nations Cup in Aachen, Pan Am Games bronze medal back in 2019, and this is a partnership that's really sort of been getting going. You know, Carla and here in Wellington as well, started together in March of last year. Jovara N, former Australian rider actually of James Arkins and Matt Williams, both representing Australia. This Dutch-bred horse by H5 Elvaro, which is a horse that we've seen jumping here in Wellington before now. So nice to see that Lucy now going on with it with a new ride.
Yeah, it's nice to see her have some new blood. She had such success with her older partner, Hester. Just a great, great horse. They had such an amazing partnership. It was always so much fun to watch. So it's going to be fun to watch her develop a new partnership, hopefully with this one.
Has the wall, one of the few to have that. But again, they're sitting up there, they're pretty flat. Unfortunately, that slides away. Oh, and in trouble here. No.
Yeah, that was unfortunate with the wall. I thought the horse actually jumped the wall quite nice. You know, with a spooky wall, it's very rare that you see them touch it. Sometimes the walls try to blend in with the background, but again, I mean, they're pieces of plywood up there really sitting delicately. And it just maybe looked like the horse kind of peeked down on that black plank that's situated underneath the 3 parts of the triple combination. You know, that's there for a reason. That's there to make the horses stare down, so they missed that top hole. It looks like she might just.
I'm going to say, I was just seeing what the plan is, because you've got to come back to that triple combination, which in terms of the horse's confidence, you might not want to do just yet. So yeah, just going to go and jump the first fence and retire. Sensible move though.
Yeah, with the triple combination kind of halfway through the class, you know, you got to know the horse and take your chances. It could build up confidence if you go through it, or, you know, some horses just kind of, they need just another minute, another class to kind of get through that again.
Yeah, all part of the process. So unfortunately heading out there for Lucy Delorier and Jovara N. Hugely experienced rider, knew a horse though that's already put its mark on, and that is Todd Minicus with Kikubo Spirit, 9-year-old, that actually won the WEF qualifier here last week. So we can talk about, you know, getting going and all that sort of stuff, but actually they were straight out of the start gate. Off they go with a win to kick off. Former rider Joshua Tabor, this mare by Darius, for the 9-time World Cup finalist. Todd, of course, many wins, including finished off last season with a good 3-star win at Ocala, the World Equestrian Centre there. But I say won last week too. And again, this is going to be a little bit of up and down with this horse. It's 9 years of age, so there are days you're going to come out with full confidence and days you're going, I've got a little bit to learn yet.
Yeah, and we know Todd, you know, master of faster, you put him on, you know, a pony, and I'm sure he'll go win a Grand Prix. You know, this is a very different ride than usually what we're used to seeing with him, so it's very exciting to kind of watch that. He's used to those, you know, hot, bloody types. He had such great horses, really took him to a lot of places. But now with this bigger horse, a little bit slow moving across the ground, huge jump. You know, he's really kind of fighting to keep it together, but at the same time keep it energized. So I think it's a new challenge, but a really fun one to watch. And it's a very careful horse. You know, for a horse that big, you wouldn't, I jinxed it just there, but you wouldn't think it would be kind of that quick off the ground, but it's quite a nice horse. And again, just a little bit spooky maybe under the lights, a little bit loss of rideability, had to really stretch across the back rail and just kind of jeopardize that front pole. And again, such a big horse going around. Maybe it had one down. It's going to get a little bit stronger, a little bit more nervous. Again, a different ride for him, but I think it has so much potential.
And that's where you've got to go and do the classes and see, and sensible enough to say this bit's working, this bit isn't. This is what we need to go and work on. We need to go and do a quieter class somewhere. Come back to that, and you'll keep going back and in and out, won't you, till you get the result you want. And as you say, the horse has got the ability to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, you can't just hide in those smaller classes and expect to come right out off the gate and, you know, jump into these big classes. You know, we saw him win that first class out kind of during the daytime. It was a really nice round, really nice course for him. But now we kind of see both the horse's ability in this and also just kind of where the rideability gets a hair lost.
Yeah, it'll all come. So Todd Minicus, again, early exit for him. Lily Keenan with a 9-year-old too, Chili Pepper MHZ. And when we talk about 9-year-olds, they've only just turned, in fact, that looks like Elena Haas there. In fact, not Lily Keenan. And in fact, we're skipping over Lily by the looks of it. Elena Haas and Kos van Heister is going to be our next one up. And again, for the 20-year-old, this is another step up for her and one of the first times under the lights for her too.
Yeah, and again, we've seen her kind of dabble in some of these FEI classes. Another one that's been in Michigan, got great experience there. But again, nice to see her with a horse that's been there, done that. You know, we've seen it, I think, under Connor Swale.
Yeah,
so
and Casey Laurie of Australia too.
but it's definitely, it knows its job. I'm sure it's seen a lot of fast tracks, big tracks. So I'm sure she can get a lot of confidence knowing, you know, it's not going to bat an eye, and she can really focus on her own riding. Really has to steady up here. It's proven really difficult to jump. Again, has A and B, rubs C, but has that stays up. And just coming home towards the in-gate, those black poles are very hard to see against the backdrop. Very, very delicate, very airy. You want to get across B, so you might come in with a little bit of pressure, but then that might jeopardize A and C. And same thing coming out. Had to squeeze for the oxer and then had B down and the front rail of the following. Again, this is a big horse. You know, it really takes you to the fence. Same thing. It's just kind of learning about how much to hold it back, where to place it. And this is just experience for her right now.
You score just couple of times to add to the score as well. It's 24-2 time for Elena Haas and Kos van Heister. But as I say, it's another big move up for her. She's gone very well with the Wells team and has been doing a lot of those Grand Prix again through the summer. Now it's back into the big winter under lights. It's felt like winter a little bit today as well. Hopefully the sunshine returns. But, you know, it's another level.
Yeah, exactly. And we saw her do some of the young rider stuff this summer, which got some great experience with team events. Now going into some of these bigger classes under the lights.
So actually we are going to see Lily Keenan now. Now to update you, the horse actually had a shoe replaced, so they flipped around. But Lily's set to go now with Chili Pepper, as I was saying, a 9-year-old. I say they're just coming out of their 8-year-old year, so again it's another bigger step up for them. But I mean, just before Christmas we saw Ben Mayer winning the World Cup qualifier with Anjou at 9 years of age there as well, just turned 10 as they all do on January the 1st in the Northern Hemisphere anyway. So they've all got their different levels of where they hit in terms of their age. Chili Pepper for the Chansonet Farm. I was jumping the 5 stars at the Desert Horse Park in California in December as well. The horse that she's had since a 6-year-old.
Yeah, and again, Lily has an amazing string right now. She can kind of play with her horses as well, like we were talking about with Kent and McLean. Having that many horses, that many chances to keep jumping and keep yourself in the ring can't be overshadowed. I mean, getting that experience, you're really in the zone. So when you get onto some of these younger horses, I mean, you're so keyed in, and it really helps that younger horse kind of find its way around the course. She's developed it really nicely. It's already stepped up in some of those FEI classes even last year, and I think she's going to test it to kind of see if she can jump some of these 3-star Grand Prix.
Yeah, been very interesting to talk to Lily this week. She was on WEF Weekly with us earlier on this week. You can still watch that on Facebook and over on YouTube and Wellington International. And of course that's also on USCF this year, and that is not how they wanted that to go. But again, had a look at it and not just that hesitation.
Yeah, and again, that's the reason why the course designer put it there. You know, it's right off the bat, like you said, early in the class. It's kind of coming off a short turn. The horses don't really see it. It's super narrow, and it's just very daunting. And so, you know, you could see her starting to kind of dig in there, ride quite hard. And as she was doing that, the horse was just backing off. And, you know, I'm sure she'll, you know, she pets the horse.
Yeah.
Knows it's going to have another day for experience like that. We all know it can jump these classes, so.
It's going to be a very good combination. Just didn't work out this time. And again, there's always that little bit of an early season run to see how things go. And so we are staying at the Four Clears with McLean Ward, Kent Farrington, Ben Mayer and Spencer Smith as we hit the halfway stage of this Southern Arches Grand Prix. A reminder too, I mentioned WEF Weekly there, that is presented as is this tonight and throughout the weeks with part support from the US Equestrian Federation and the USEF network as well. Those are your Four Clears and our sponsors of the live stream. Delighted to have them. Dodd Technologies, crafting unforgettable moments tailored to your imagination. And for more information, head to doddtechnologies.com. They're also supplying our arena boards here as well, which you notice is a new feature to the arena here too. Consistent feature of the arena are these four riders though: McLean Ward, Kent Farrington, Ben Mayer and Spencer Smith, as they have been for a number of years now. We're going to take a little breather for a minute and we will be running into the second half of this Southern Arches Grand Prix. Southern Arches, all about horses, team and sport, and that's what we're all about tonight.
the most famous chihuahua in the world. Well, we've had the Simba camp very well done, especially the last I think was picking up a very heavy looking dog by the looks of it. We've seen the Simba camp, let's look at the dance cam as well. If the camera comes on, we need you to dance. We've had the Simba camp, we've had the dance camp, now pucker up for the kiss camp.
Well, set to resume into this Southern Archers Grand Prix. Our thanks to them, all about horses, team and sports. And as I mentioned earlier, our official live stream sponsors. And Southern Archers, Dodd Technologies are presenting our live stream throughout the weeks of the Winter Equestrian Festival, crafting unforgettable moments tailored to your imagination. And for more information, head to doddtechnologies.com. As I say, that includes the arena boards that are around the arena. And supporting sponsor, presented in part with the support of the US Equestrian Federation and USEF Network as well. Our thanks to them. As I say, they're also going to be supporting the WEF Weekly, which you can see each week live 5 o'clock on Wednesday as well across various platforms, including USEF Network and Wellington International. And we are going to be focusing back into the second half of this $140,000 Southern Arches 3-star Grand Prix tonight, and Canadian Tiffany Foster with the Artisan Farms Northern Light. The 13-year-old for Tiffany. Of course, she's got oodles of experience, whether it's Olympic Games to championships and delivering a team silver medal at the Pan Am Games last year as well. Put up with her first 5-star Grand Prix win early into 2023 in May of last year in Vancouver as well, literally on home ground in Langley. That was a wonderful emotional moment for her. She's won many, many classes, but it was her first 5-star Grand Prix win. And with the fabulous Northern Lights, this Swedish-bred mare by the great Plot Blue. Plot Blue, of course, that was ridden so brilliantly by Marcus Earning. So, final look around. Take it all in. What's going through your head at those moments there? Ali Wolf alongside me tonight. Ali, you're having a little look around. Final digesting of the course?
Yeah, I think you're just kind of preparing yourself, maybe taking a deep breath, figuring out how you want to start your course and ride maybe a specific corner that you might find a little bit challenging later on.
So Tiffany Foster takes us around and gives us a little chance to resume, Ali, on what we think of the course. Talk us through a few of what to expect here. We've seen all sorts of areas of the course that have had their issues, whether due to rideability, due to how it's gone for someone. What about this first line?
Yeah, he starts off with a great, forward fence, first oxer, and then comes to a nice, really, really tall, your first kind of vertical off the bat, and then again to a forward four. And we've seen this triple combination play a factor in a lot of these horses' rounds. She mastered that beautifully. And again, Tiffany's had a lot of horses. She has a lot of horses, a lot of depth to her string. I know this one she's been really excited about, had that great win. So I think this is a horse that she hopefully kind of sees a little bit more of the future with, stepping it up into some of these bigger classes as well. Really steady in that 7, really have to be patient there. And again, as we've seen, this is not to be taken for granted. They seem to be jumping actually that really tall vertical quite nicely and then having a little issue with the oxer, but none for her.
None for her, and a very good start takes us to the 5th of the clears with Tiffany Foster and Northern Light starting us off. Of course, we started so strongly into the first round with McLean Ward, Kent Farrington and Ben Mayer. The only clear that came after that was the experienced pairing of Spencer Smith and Theodore Monseillet. Now Tiffany Foster, again, another one that have got the mileage there to pop in the next to the clears for clear round number 5. Gabriel de Matos Machado now of Brazil. Horse that came from the Sweet Oak Farm. This is Niles, to use the short version for this Belgian-bred horse. New in November, in fact, and by I Am Mohiva Star. And again, this will be another step up for them. Jumped through the 3 and 4 stars, though, in December. And we'll, again, this will see how they get on. Big jump over the first.
Yeah, again, another step up into these classes with the new mount, new partnership. Coming from Sweet Oak, we know that Shane's probably jumped his horses in a few classes. Shane always has so many new horses. I can never really keep track of them. But he finds some really, really great horses. So coming from him, it's had some experience. It's a very nice horse. Started jumping around really well. Took a little bit of a peek down at that A vertical. But he sat back really nicely, kind of supported it through that triple combination. And again, for such a new partnership, jumping straight into this big 3-star, that's a really big move up and a lot of trust. It just kind of toes the back of that with the back end with that skinny. We haven't seen that come down actually.
Again, the faults have been pretty well spread around the course, as much as we'd like to say, it's a specific fence or a specific line. It's been pretty, for different reasons.
Yeah, and that's kind of the tell of a good course designer. Of course, I think I should be Nick's publicist at this point. But he's done a really great...
Oh, takes off a long way from that one, but...
Yeah, I think the horse maybe saw that the 4 was going to be a little short and thought maybe not. Let's step one back in there. But again, you know, not a bad round. Getting to know the horse a lot. But again, going back to the course designer, you know, that's a great test of, you know, having fences down all over the place, not just in 1 or 2 fences. We've seen, I think, almost every pull in different areas come down, except for that 4-star that I thought was going to be ride so hard from the wall. It's not been proving any issues.
Andrew Wells now. Andrew with the Itasca Group and Evergreen Stables Idol H&H, an 11-year-old now by Action Breaker. Again, there's been coming through the 2, 3 stars from that point of view again. Happy Hunting Ground in Michigan, Traverse City as well over the summer. And now a chance to step under the lights, because again there are not too many opportunities to get into this atmosphere, to get under the lights like this. Very few venues are doing that. A few more venues are doing that, which is really interesting, which is good to see. You know, again, it's key to then get the crowds in, get that energy in there, and get a big group of people in to really make it feel like a big event.
Yeah, I mean, again, strategy for the rest of the circuit. I mean, you really look at all the weeks, and there's only a handful of 3 stars, and really right off the bat, the 3 stars start right up under the lights. Big courses, like we said. This is a certificate class, meaning you have to have some 1.55 fences, so it's not really a true 3-star. But after that, you're jumping 4 and 5 stars. So if you don't start your horse really right off the bat, getting him up under these lights in a 3-star, then you kind of have to wait till the end of the circuit, or maybe not at all, or step it up into a huge class under the lights.
Yeah. I say opportunity next week. We've got a National Grand Prix here as well. But again, I expect to see a very different lineup of horses in that. Of course, actually, the main key of the week will be the 3-star Grand Prix out in the grass. Vertical goes down for Andrew.
Yeah, and we're now actually just seeing that skinny come down. You know, you would expect it to have a little bit more problems. It's like an 8-foot pole, probably a little bit lighter. Again, all black, kind of hard for the horses to see. Otherwise, he's having actually quite a nice round. And again, it was nice that they do put in that National Grand Prix next week. Kind of gives you an opportunity. If you're just starting your horse out over week 0, it gives you an opportunity to kind of get in some small classes and then move up. And he just has that blue vertical down. Now we've seen that come down just a handful of times. So it's going to be interesting to see if new fences come down after the half of the break.
Overall score of 9, 8 jumping 1 time for Andrew Wells this time with Idol H&H. So holding at the 5 clears at the moment. You see that skinny.
They're all seemingly jumping that wall quite nice. It was nice that Nick added the standards there. You know, maybe
I was just going to say that's the kind part, because yes, if you were doing a 5-star, those standards wouldn't be there. It would be just sitting there, hovering in the air.
Yes,
you know, it's one of those lovely raised walls with
very empty space you're aiming at.
Luciana Locio of Brazil, and Luciana with Lady Louise. Also, she's had some fantastic results in from World Cup qualifiers in Sao Paulo to winning in Rio in December as well. She was actually on the Nations Cup team here last year too, finishing on the podium. This is one that could come out of the pack.
Yeah, she's had actually, you know, some success with this horse. She has a great partnership with this horse. She jumped great on Thursday. Nice ride to that 4-star. Again, we have not seen that Liverpool Oxford come down. It's interesting. You walk the course, you kind of have an idea of some of the fences that might ride a little bit tricky, and sometimes the horses just figure it out. We've definitely seen that play a huge role, that 1-to-1. You know, walking the course, you don't really think that triple combination is super daunting. You know, it's not incredibly wide or incredibly tall coming in, but it's a lot to look at. It's super airy. Ooh, she really gallops for that one, gets away with it.
It looked like a long way, but they covered it well.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to kind of the trust of your partnership. And then if she can kind of pull it back together, she asked a lot of the horse at that Oxer, so it really needs to gather it back together. Just pays the price a little bit.
Going to come home with the 4. That's a shame. Finishing on 4:73.52. I did say there were ones that could feature. Really tried at that plank. She was right there with the delicacy, wasn't she? Just trying to have it right. And it just, you can see another look at this.
Yeah, I mean, you barely even see her hit it. You know, the previous rider jostled it a little bit. Obviously, they fixed it right after that, but it just goes to show you it also depends on how you hit it.
But there's that big leap. Woo. I mean, that is a fair distance to cover.
that is trust.
Laura Crouch and the Stars and Stripes Calgary Tame, and lovely to have Laura with us as well. Also Team Gold at the Pan Am Games last year, individual fourth, just finished off the podium there, but with an exciting horse there that she's going to see. And this is another one that she's had for quite a while now, the 12-year-old Calgary Tame, which again has come from a background of two fantastic horses in Old Chap Tame with Eugenie Yango, of course, that brought the French rider that brought on the horse previously too, and this one, and out of Devendi S. Oh dear, that is not what we expect, unfortunately. Air jacket's gone off, so it's just left her on the floor for a moment. She's up on her feet.
And that's a little bit what that line was kind of looking at, like how it could possibly ride spookier than it has been riding. You know, it has that Liverpool tray underneath with the lights directly on it. Sometimes the reflection, the horse just really starts to back off, and she was really trying to get down there in the floor, and it was just backing off even more, and that was unfortunate. But at least she has, you know, that vest that we've been seeing with the cartridges that kind of pop off as soon as you dismount from the horse. Really, it kind of explodes. A little bit restricting it when you first get up, but
it's essentially a human airbag as you would have in a car, and that goes off, and so when you're hitting the ground, it's taking that concussion away from you, which is only a good thing.
Exactly, and I think it also adds a little bit of peace of mind as well. You know that when you're landing, you're going to land on something a little bit softer.
The partner, Olympic champion Nick Skelton, just coming to lead her out. Just check she's all okay. Seems to be.
And she played such a vital role in the Pan Am. Yes. Thank God. That team really pulled it together for the US. That was a
Laura riding the round really that clinched the spot not only for the medals but also that Olympic qualifying place for Paris as well.
Absolutely, and that was so vital for us.
Big pressure on her, and she delivered. Laura Crouch, though, not to be this time, of course. Many times, and we can list them all day how many Grand Prix she has won. But we're moving on to Quentin Judge and the Double H Farm and the Creel family's HH Medarco PS, horse by Messenger, going back to the line of Darko as well. Hence we came up with Medarco. And placed in Kentucky, trial last season as well. Former rider Philipp Ripping of Germany as a young horse. 10 years of age, so he's only just moving out of the 9-year-old year. And maybe if we look at their passport, they're probably still sitting there. But up we go and on we go.
That's the hard part. You know, a lot of these horses probably have April, May, June, July birthdays. So they're really not technically the age that they are listed. Unfortunately, they all have to turn a year older on January 1, no matter of their real birthday. Kind of the fun partnership, or kind of the fun little fact here, is that he rode the father of this horse, H.H.
Messenger, yeah.
So it's really kind of fun to see the father-son relationship. You know, Messenger really had to stretch across the back rail for that one. Really has to collect here and then stretch again. Same thing, coming towards home, it just gets a little bit rushed sometimes. But again, this is a really young horse. And Messenger, we know, was a really hot horse. So this one doesn't have kind of the blood, but it definitely has a lot of the scope that you saw in him as well. Kind of trailed the hind end for B as well. Just looks like, you know, he had to let the horse out a little bit and then collect it back. And sometimes those horses, when there's so much to ask of them, kind of, again, like we were talking about, get a little bit at the fence, and that's just looking like what it's happening.
Again, first real test for them under the lights.
Yeah, he really only just started moving this horse up during the summer. Was really smart about it, you know, did some speed classes, then dropped back down, did some more speed classes, maybe tried to step up into a light 3-star. Had a lot of success, you know. I think he has a lot of promise for the future, has a lot of hopes on this horse, and it's a great partnership.
Yeah, certainly one that will come, as we say. Asian experience will certainly be to their benefit as well, but they're completing their round for Quentin Judge. Unfortunately not returning for the jump off. 5 of them will at this point, with McLean Ward, Kent Farrington, Ben Mayer, Spencer Smith and Tiffany Foster. Hannah Selleck coming into view, and the Californian with the Descanso Farms Cloud 39. Taking a little breather since November, jumped well into this week on this Claramo sired gelding. Former ride of Mario Deloria as well, who she's also been working with, and she actually headed over to Europe too on a Tour of Nations Cup via Mora and Vejer in Spain as well. Went very well there, and certainly I'm sure to be making more appearances in the coming months through the US team too, and also finished well in the Grand Prix in Socrates. So this has been a really good partnership that came together last year, has built and built, and Hannah really moving up now into an even bigger level for her now, and she's really handled it well.
Yeah, she actually had a great summer with this horse. They started a really great partnership together, jumped on a few Nations Cup teams, had a lot of success with that. I think she maybe added the 5 there. But again, knowing this horse, kind of knowing where she should add, where she should leave out. A very forward horse as well, so she just really keeping it packaged together. But she's really seemed to kind of come along well with this animal, and I think she's going to see maybe the circuit step into some of those bigger classes. It definitely has the capability, and the help from Mario. He knows this horse so well. Ooh. Just stretched across the back rail. It has just so much scope and so much step. She can really trust to kind of get it up and over without really having to override, but now has to steady.
Just got to be a little conscious of time as well. That was the only thing on the way around there too.
I think we might have a time fault.
Yeah, I think she's just going to run out of it, but I have to say it was a very good round, 79.18. It's going to leave them with 2 time for Hannah Selleck and Cloud 39. Jump round for similarly, I think, with a time fault earlier on this week as well, but they have not been touching fences.
No, not at all. I mean, that was a fantastic round, and again, coming off of a break. You never know how the horses are going to be coming off break, fitness-wise especially. They have just been on fire, so I think you will see a lot of success coming, at least from circuit, if not this summer with them.
Tim Gredley is another who's actually returned to the top flight, and the British rider who for many years was also here on a regular basis here in Wellington. Had a long break, he was off working in the family business, and has now returned to top flight show jumping as well. He likes to balance all these things up. On the 11-year-old Imperial HBF horse that was actually produced in Great Britain with Alex Barr, but he's actually been riding back onto teams this year. He rode on the European Championship team. He was also on the winning Nations Cup team for the British at Hickstead last year as well. So it's been great to see him to return to the top flight, because he rode at the World Championships back in 2006 when a younger man at that point.
Yeah, he's definitely had some great horses. He's seen what it looks like to take a big track. And this horse has a lot of jump, a lot of scope. See him hanging up a little bit over that Liverpool. Again, this horse has kind of a unique style, just hangs up so much. It gives you so much airtime that's a little bit of what could come of it.
Yeah.
But he gets up.
But again, it's a little of why they come to the circuit as well, in that you need to get that mileage here, and if you're going to be serious contender for big championships this year, bearing in mind it's an Olympic year, bearing in mind you want to go and jump to those big 5 stars throughout 2024, you need to be getting in there and working out what works, what doesn't.
Yeah, exactly, and this is a super scopy horse, so we know it has the ability to do it. Now you kind of take into account some of the pressure, the crowd, the atmosphere, and I do know, a lot of these nations that are looking towards future potential teammates say, you have to go show in Wellington. You have to get the experience there. You have to see those jumps. You have to see the crowd, and especially compete against those people.
And you're going to see quite a few combinations coming in. I think we've got quite a few coming from Europe, especially near the tail end of circuit here as well. which is going to be really interesting to see, because it's a good place to go and start to really test yourself on whether you've got that Olympic caliber. We've also got Gregory Bordeaux, who's building the Olympics alongside Santi Varela, who's building here, I think, week 5 as well. So that will be another good move, which is something that tends to happen here in Wellington when we get an Olympic here, is get the Olympic course designer in here as well, designing with some of the top riders. And he's a man here who could have a good shot in there as well. Probably with a different horse, but Delida could be the one. Who knows? Delida is the 10-year-old, the Zangazide bred mare by De Montesemi. Of course, he went fantastically last year with Major Tom. And Rodrigo again riding for the Artemis Equestrian Farm, for the Clark family. Fantastic supporters there. He was Pan Am Team Bronze with Major Tom. And part of Nations Cup here last year. Actually, former ride of Nicola Philippart's that actually Nicola rode this horse through to even Aachen. So it's a horse with plenty of ability, but only, again, just turned 10.
Yeah, again, another young horse. You know, he's one also that has really started to kind of build up his string over these past couple of years. Has some really top contenders for the big stuff. This is kind of one of the ones that he's maybe testing a little bit to see where the experience level lies. Had a little issue, again, we see with that triple combination. Just very airy, hard for the horses to kind of see and focus on each individual part. Now he just kind of wants to ride a little bit on that forward stride just to give it some confidence, you know, regardless of the poles he has down.
Yeah, just get across it.
Yeah. You know, he doesn't care at this point. He just wants to give it a confident round.
Hugely experienced rider, and again, it's, as I say, a move up for this horse. We're looking forward to seeing Major Tom out later in the season as well, but Rodrigo, who's building a really fantastic string around him with the support of the Artemis team. And actually, there you go, and exactly as you say, build confidence nicely down that final set of fences.
Yeah, and especially after what kind of happened, maybe he wanted to ride those next few oxers, really focus on getting across. Doesn't matter about the front rail, give the confidence to get across, and then you saw those last 4 fences kind of pull it together, and then you know, you have the horse that you started the horse with.
You can see here, going into the triple combination, just making a little bit of a move to the left, and again, as you say, the engine was just dropping away from them at that point too.
Yeah, he fought to really get over that. As the horse spooks, it tends to try and move to the side, kind of give it either some more room or try to get out of the way of what's causing the spook, but he really sat behind it, pushed it forward. Again, doesn't matter about the poles at that point, just the confidence.
Carly Anthony, and with Jet Blue this time for the portfolio horses. Heavenly W, in fact, just to correct that one. And this one by Calvaro FC. And Carly having, again, terrific run. I was mentioning Jet Blue there because she's done very well there. A little bit of a look at the first there as well for them with Heavenly W, who again was getting good mileage last year for what is now a 12-year-old. Finished well in the Socrates Grand Prix at the latter part of last year as well.
Yeah, the first fence, I mean, it's not really proving super difficult per se for the fence, but getting there, you know, we've seen a few horses kind of kick out a little bit or hesitate on the way over there. It's right on the railing. It's right where we just talked about these new arena boards. They're very bright, not what we're used to, and it's right on that railing to start you off from the course. So that's a little bit daunting for some of these horses. And again, we see C come down, as well as that back pole of the oxer, that orange oxer. Very, very tricky line. I think a lot of riders are kind of taking note about that, trying to execute it the way they would wish or could see it being ridden in their mind's eye. But again, all this material is just so delicate. And again, she's already had so much experience on this horse, just kind of pulling it together again, just finishing the course off strong and ready kind of for the next Grand Prix. We just see that come down again as well.
Jumps the last well. They're going to be inside the time at 76.79. Total of 12. 3 down for Carly Anthony and Heavenly W this time. Still holding at the 5 clears at this point.
You know, looking through all the scores, it's very interesting. You don't actually see too many of those 4 falters, so I think that they could maybe sneak up into the money.
Yeah, they're sitting actually 7th, 8th and 9th at the moment, with Hannah Selick in 6th place, of course, on the 2 time from that point of view, and top 10 completed by Jorge Mata on a total of 5.
Yeah, and again, after those first 3 clears, you know, +1 a few rounds later, it's really come few and far between. And we knew that was going to be a little bit, you know, you started off with a little bit of false confidence with those first 3 riders, but it's definitely been proven a difficult track.
Francisco Goyaga Molet now of Spain, the Ashland Farms, the ride for the Smith team's Icarus on this Belgian-bred stallion by Douglas. Again, another one that went up to Michigan, to Traverse City, went well there in the Grand Prix over the summer, several top 5 finishes there. In fact, in second in the Southern Arches Grand Prix there in September as well.
Yeah, he's, I think in Michigan, I think he was second at least like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
He was so close every single time. Again, now we're seeing this kind of take place, which is quite interesting.
And again, okay, we talk about under the lights, we talk about light reflecting on the water, but the difference is we're under conditions where it hasn't changed. Yeah. Every horse in this class has seen it the same. It's not like seeing it in daylight and sunlight where the sun moves and things move, but it's sat consistently.
Exactly, and he's choosing kind of to take that second fence, something the horse has already seen and jumped before. And again, you know, you can sometimes maybe see that in stallions, just kind of get their eye or mind caught on something, and he kind of knows at this point he's not going to fix the horse by jumping it again.
Yeah.
It's definitely already jumped Liverpool's by this time. It's a great horse, super careful, very fast, so you know, just go back to the drawing board and we'll see him out again.
Vasco Flores and Anton Morano's Cosmona for the rider who also competed at the Pan Am Games last year for Puerto Rico, though, on that occasion. Former ride of Gio Rinaldi and Gwyneth Babington, who we saw a little bit earlier on, of course, with the retirement of Mark Q. But this horse very much in the prime of competing at the age of 13.
Yeah, exactly, and it's seen a lot. You know, it's seen quite a few riders. It's been interesting to kind of watch the different types of riders riding this horse. It is a bigger, thicker horse, but as big and as thick as she can kind of be, she rides a little bit on the lighter side and quite careful. Vasco already taking it to the Pan Ams, had some experience there, jumped some good courses. So at this point, they've kind of had a lot of experience together and looking to be competitive in these types of classes.
And that's what's always interesting with a championship. You see some combinations grow during the week because, again, it's progressively harder through there. So, you know, you get across a good course to start off the week, which is going to be your easiest one. You get confidence there and so on and so forth. So it'd be really interesting to see how this translates. Okay, they've just had the back bar at the water tray.
Yeah, and I think that was almost maybe more or less of him being a little bit protective of the front rail. You know, that front rail is so inviting to kind of ride into. And with a horse like her, she's so brave. You know, I'm sure he trusts her to jump over anything, so maybe at that point he was just being a little bit guarded about that front rail and just kind of misjudged the back. No problem through that middle combination. Big stretch over the oxer. And kind of needs to think about the time a lot, just with this horse a little bit. But at the same time, I'm sure we'll see if he does the 6 or the 7. Opts for the 7. And just we see that back rail come down. That's kind of a newer fence that we've seen a back rail come down off of.
Like I say, it's been a mix right across the course, which is a sign of a good course from that point of view. Total of 8, 76.41. Why do we say it's a sign of a good course? Because basically it just means there's no definite trappy area on there. It means that the challenge is spread across it.
Yeah, and you know, horse dependent, but it really doesn't seem super trappy. It's a little careful here and there, a little looky here and there, but no serious issues. Maybe some younger horses take a peek down and, you know, either have a refusal or just need to try and see it again, but, you know, nothing, no major issues here.
And that's the thing for someone like Nick Granite who's building here tonight. You've got that mix of going. There are a number of, well-established partnerships in here. There's some good riders, good horses. There are also horses with less experience. There are riders with less experience. He's got to build something that's jumpable for all of them.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a huge ask, you know, a big factor to take into account of all the versatile types of horses and riders in this class, along with those compulsory meter 55 verticals. So that's a lot to take into consideration.
Caitlin Connors now. And Caitlin with Falcon de Husset, owned by herself. The gelding by Florian Delavie. Bit more experienced horse here at 15 years of age. She was doing the U25s last year, the 23-year-old rider. Nations Cup last year as well. 2 of those over in Europe, again on that tour of Portugal and Spain.
She's really come together with this horse really nice. Had a lot of great big jump over that triple combination. She's already had some great results. Jumped in some of those U25, like you said. Had a good rub on that orange oxer coming out of the 5 stride, but it stays up. You know, with a horse like this, he's really careful, super scopy, maybe hanging up just a little bit, so you want to kind of think about getting across some of those oxers. But again, has so much scope, and I think she knows that and definitely trusts that. And just a little bit of a slower mover. So again, at this point, kind of thinking about time allowed, but honestly, once you're at this point, there's nothing really more to be done about the time allowed. That should be happening in the first half.
Yes, you've hit it too late at this point. She might just squeak this. It's going to be very much on the nose, and I don't think she's going to. She's not. 78.91. It is one time fault for Caitlin Connors and Falconer, who said, but again, the frustration of not being the jump off, but also the elation of actually having had a good round put together.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you would just have to call that consistency, especially for her summer that she's had with this horse. Really placed it nicely in some classes that she knew she could be competitive in, as well as move up. And, you know, she has a few other horses that she's jumped in some of these classes with, so she's gotten that experience under her belt. But, you know, with a horse like this that has so much ability, they really come together nicely.
Speaking of which, Colin and Luis Francisco de Azevedo. Lovely to see this pairing together as well. 17-year-old horse now, Colin, who's delivered so much for this Brazilian rider. The Santa Cecilia Stables' own ride. His father as well, who was an Olympic rider.
Yeah, and again, you see, you know, horses just really are struggling to get to that first fence. Really kind of shine off those boards. Had a little light rub on that back pole of fence number 1, but now that he's kind of in the little look at the wall as well, and just has that back pole a little bit far off of that 4 stride. Couldn't quite get across that Liverpool. He seems very rambunctious tonight. And same thing for the back rail. He is a bit of a hotter horse, but at the same time, just looks like he's kind of backed off a little bit. That's kind of where those back rails are coming into play, and we'll just probably call it a night.
And I think what you don't appreciate with that first fence as well is there is a lot of space around it. There's basically one fence on that side of the arena, which is probably almost, you know, I'm not quite a fifth of the arena there, but it's a long strip down there with one fence, the crowd from the VIP on that one side as well. All of that goes into it. So you're a little bit going into big open space on your own, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think it would be a different factor if it were faced the other direction. But just going away from home, that being your first fence, horses really don't want to get to that side of where the Lugano is displayed in those green and white lettering. So I think that's kind of where the problem arose. Sometimes if you do have a light rub or something on the back rail, you just have to ride a little bit harder. The horses get a little bit more backed off, and then the harder you ride, the more sometimes they back off even. So.
Jacob Pope. Jacob with Highway FBH, a combination we've been following closely. Another Dutch-bred horse by Plot Blue, which we mentioned a little bit earlier on as well. Again, Nations Cup. He had a number of those last year, including in Norway, in Drammen, in Denmark, in Spain, and in Portugal. Jumped super rounds in the WEF qualifier as well, because of course we're going in reverse order. Had a fence down at the last there, took a flyer to that final fence, and it just clipped with them. But this has been one that really stood out last year and is, I think, going to stand out even further this year.
Yeah, and last year, yeah, exactly, just like you said, they had such a breakout year. It's a great partnership. They've had so much success, especially getting that team kind of feeling under their belt. They had, I think, a win in the Nations Cup, maybe in Denmark or something.
Yes, they did, yeah.
But I think he's going to try and see, you know, he's already stepped up and jumped a few 5 stars last year, but, you know, already this partnership just seems so confident. It's a little bit of a slower moving horse. You know, originally, maybe in the beginning, he was having a few time faults, just being careful, wanting to help guide the horse around the track. But now you kind of see him attacking the fences and the course a little bit more, just that confidence underneath his belt from the summer before. Oh, just has the light rub on the back rail there. The horse is so careful. It comes so much off that front rail that you really have to stretch across. And same thing with a little bit of a slower mover. You really have to kind of think about getting across, but without jeopardizing that front pole. And I'm not sure. I want to say this is maybe their first night class.
Trying to think. I think they did.
Maybe they did one last. Yeah.
They would have done one last year. Finishes on the 4 there for Jacob Pope and Highway FBH. But Jacob and Ivan Rakowski have been teaming up really well around this horse, and it's just going in the right direction. Again, it's just touching on some. I think we've got some big results coming.
Yeah, and I think last year he jumped. I mean, almost every WEF cleared.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really solid throughout those. And again, it's just going to be about getting a bit more mileage again into 2024.
Yeah, and he has, he has great partnership with Ivan, some great supporters, has a little bit of some backup horses now to hopefully support Highway.
And another one that's getting some fantastic opportunities is Philip McGuane now of Ireland, the Evergate Stables, Orphea HQ. And of course that's Niall Nassar and Jen Gates Nassar as well now, and he's their stable jockey, and he's getting a terrific opportunity here with this Belgian bred mare by Emerald, former ride of Emma Stoker of Great Britain, who actually went over to Europe, produced a whole list of very good horses they've been through, notably several that with Scott Brash over the years as well. Placed in the 4 stars here in December. Also good in the 2-star Grand Prix at the Hamptons. This is another step up for them, but it's a good opportunity for Philip, and I know the Evergate team will be watching and supporting here tonight.
Yeah, another younger horse. This is a really fun horse to watch. I've been watching her a little bit. Kind of scrappy, but full of heart. Has a lot of heart and a lot of kind of that scrappy ability to kind of figure out where its legs are, yank them up out of the way. You wouldn't necessarily call it like the scopiest of horses, but, these types of horses are the ones that win classes. Super fast, know where their legs are. You can kind of gallop down to those fences, and, we might see them in the jump off.
And if you're watching steeplechase, it's more like they're hurdling the fences
yep.
than anything else, but they're getting it done, and they're getting it done quickly is the thing. And this is on a good time.
Exactly. At the end of the day, you're racing against the clock, and the ones that are scopy take way more time across.
That is a terrific round for Philip. And Orphea HQ, that is one they could be proud of as well, and so gives us clear round number 6. It's been a little while in the waiting, but Philip McGuane there and Orphea HQ. Your thoughts, Sally?
Yeah, I really like this one. Definitely want to be a quick jump-off contender. Had a huge fan base. We heard a lot of cheering coming from that one. But again, these kinds of mares, you can never tell their ability, especially with that heart. They can jump up to -60 and maybe not think that you have the scope in the beginning, but they just keep growing and growing.
British rider Amanda Derbyshire, based here as she has been for quite some time in the United States. Cornwall BH, again more experienced horse, 16 years of age now, has been there from a long list of 2 stars through to 5 stars, and of course Amanda with all the experience too, having been a European medalist as well. So this one goes in the experienced category, and so we hold our breath and see if they can deliver.
Yeah, and it's always fun watching those older partnerships. You're always rooting for those ones, coming off the gate, another year under their belt. She's always had so much success with this horse. Again, another really fast rider. You can never count her out of those jump-offs. Especially this horse is a little bit of a slower mover, but has such a big jump, and she's just so quick to turn and across the ground, really makes up strides across the ground there. Even slowing down in the 4. And I think this might kind of be her test here to hold them together. And just knowing him so well, he can be a bit of a strong horse. A little bit of a downhill, kind of pulling you down towards the fence, which I think that's why she has that little fuzzy on the nose. Oh, and it just fell late.
Yeah.
Barely touched it.
Just a brush, I'm afraid.
Again, jumping into that double, they see B element coming up, so they're going to back off naturally. But you're also feeling like you're jumping uphill, so that's a lot of push. And again, you see that B element coming up really quickly, so a lot of horses kind of hold off of that. Too bad.
It is. They finished on 4 at 74.44, but not too many on the 4 faults because they go into 10th place, so they're still in the money at the moment. Not as much money as they would have liked out of it, but they're still in the cash francs at this stage for Amanda Derbyshire and Cornwall BH. There, just see it clipped on the way down as they just stretch out over that oxer. Here through the triple combination. Good effort through there.
Just an older horse like that, you really see the intelligence. He's so smart, he just knows where his feet are.
Tyser Irwin now of Australia. And Helita B, former ride of Sophie Hinners, in fact, partner of Richard Fogel. In fact, Sophie was winning yesterday. I saw her win wherever she was yesterday, over in Europe, and in fact I think she was over in the Middle East actually in the shows there. But the legacy carries on. Another one by Emerald, in fact, and so this the 12-year-old mare for Tyser, owned by Michael and Wendy Smith. She herself World Cup winner before now in Australia, and has made again a good career based out of the United States, again flying under the Australian flag.
Yeah, I really like watching this partnership. This is a really fun horse to watch. Beautiful type. A little bit of a newer partnership. I know she kind of kept the horse over there at Hendricks for a little bit and then brought it over. You know, it is middle-aged, I guess you would say, but talking to her, she said it's had some babies, so it's a little bit greener than its age kind of states. But just has so much talent. And horses really like to jump for Tyser. You know, she kind of gives them the freedom, and then they really figure out their own shape from that. You know, still has to fight with this horse a little bit just for control's sake, and really has to fight around the corner here to get it back. But she is definitely a fighter. Maybe think about the time allowed just a little bit.
Yeah. I think she should be all right.
Yeah.
She should be all right. It's not going to be far off, but she should be fine. Yeah, around about 75 was what I expected. 75.53, and Tyser Irwin delivering on the clear as well. And again, a lesser-known name for those in the United States, maybe, but she's been more known on a global stage with the Australian squad, and this looks really good.
Yeah, and she's always brought along some really nice horses. Again, she partners with so many great horses. They really just love to fight for her and jump well for her, and I think she's found another great partnership.
Looks good, and takes us to clear round number 7. Delaney Flynn, the 23-year-old, with Cassinia for the Windsor Show Stables for the McRae team, Jonathan and Chrissy McRae. And actually was a horse that Chrissy was riding for a little while, and now they've stepped the horses into Delaney Flynn's hand and helping her, and with the mare by Casalito, 10-year-old here as well for the rider still in the under 25 category.
Yeah, she's, again, you know, still so young. Gets the ability to keep jumping in those U25 classes, which is such a great experience as well. I know she has a lot of belief in this horse. A really scopy horse, a little bit of a slower mover across the ground, but a huge stride. Just doesn't quite get down that far in time. And again, a lot of experience to take into account. You know, this horse, she's just kind of stepping up into those 3 stars, 4 stars. I think she jumped 1.
Whoa.
In Michigan as well, but again, a completely different ball game when you talk about being in here. She had such a great class Thursday. The horse really jumped well, but again, just kind of a little bit surprising coming in here with the crowd, the music, the lights, the boards.
It's all a bit different. And again, because we're into our top 5 in the class, like we said, it's reverse order of the qualifying from the qualifier earlier on this week, the WEF Challenge Cup, which everybody that follows knows is the traditional class on Thursday afternoon. So that's going to have much more significance this year as well.
Yeah, and it just goes to show you know, you had, with as much success as you maybe had on Thursday, you can have a completely different horse coming into this class. Just jeopardizes, you know, she wanted to get across the back rail just to have that confidence for the horse, just, you know, at this point, whatever about the front rail. And again, for her confidence as well. Again, she's so young. You know, she has some great opportunity with Chris and John, great horses to ride. But just to even finish this course, get a feel more of this track, she's really pulling it together. You know, you can see this horse backing off a lot. She really fights hard for that.
And again, at the risk of being repetitive, like you say, they've not got the mileage under the lights. Very different prospect to having jumped well outside through the summer, but it will come. And actually, you know, the good thing is they had a nice solid finish there.
Exactly, and kind of that's what it really boils down to. As long as you kind of finish okay, you can jump into that next class just fine.
Chalk it up and say, okay, we're going to maybe drop down a level, whatever you do for the next one to build the confidence back up again, and off we go again. It's always a move up and down a ladder. In this sport, it's very different to other sports. It's not just a constant move up every rung. It's up 2 rungs, back 1, up 3 rungs, back 1. It's the way it works with horses, isn't it?
Exactly, and especially when you have a few horses to kind of play around with, you have more of that ability to keep yourself in the high levels, but also give your horse a break.
Top 4. And Natalie Dean with the Marigold Sport Horses of California's Nespresso, Belgian-bred horse by Cicero Z. Of course, she's now notched up plenty of appearances for Team USA, including last year into Aachen as well. Last year's World Cup finalist, now training with Ben Mayer as well.
Yeah, we talk about string. I think she might have the best string at circuit right now, at least the largest string. She's had a great support system in her family. She was able to have, I think, maybe 3 strings during the summer. Maybe 2 or 3 horses in each location in 3 different locations. So that really, really helps give her the experience to keep jumping, keep fighting. And again, stepping up into those Nations Cups, getting the experience of the team, jumping all around the world.
Clips that. So the vertical putting 4 on the scorecard. But I agree with you. I think this will be a big season for her in the end, and we shouldn't get too hung up on what happens on week 1.
Exactly, and this is such a big jumping horse. We've seen it jump in a lot of big classes. Again, she has way more horses behind it to keep jumping, so you'll only see it probably get better. Yeah,
another 11 weeks of competition. On the 4 there, 74.19 for Natalie Dean and Nespresso. We'll leave them into 11th spot, so just in the prize money as it stands. Here we look back at the first fence.
You think about only a year ago or so that she was stepping into these classes and gaining the experience, and now she's a really live contender.
Yeah, I mean, she's now moved up to, number 87 in the world, so
and
she's
that's
top
amazing.
100. Yeah. Huge assets, as this man has been to the Irish team, Cian O'Connor and Susan Magner's Lexington. And this is a horse that's been with Abdel Said, who's a rider, of course, we've seen here in Wellington before now, winning 5-star Grand Prix. And Cian O'Connor, world number 100 right now. And this is basically a pretty brand new ride for him as well. Max Watchman's also been riding this horse who Cian trains. Max actually on the sidelines at the moment, unfortunately, with an injury. Hopefully he's going to be back in the next few weeks as well with the 2 Watchman boys. And younger brother Tom, and actually sister Alice has been in action today as well, going well too, which has been good to see. But back to Cian and this new ride in Lexington, 10-year-old by Etoulon.
Yeah, again, another great support system behind him with Coolmore Stud. He's really helped all the kids along in their riding, gotten some of those boys on the teams. That's an amazing accomplishment. And again, they have such a great backing in their family dynamic and system, and very well known for their breeding of and race horses. Just has B and C.
Yeah.
He just got a little bit quick through that. But again, Cian, just so much experience under his belt.
And this is where actually, okay, like I say, this is going to be one of the first Grand Prix for this pair together. So this is a little bit of an exploratory mission as well, but it's going to be really fascinating to sit down with them and get that meeting of minds of a great racing man like Jog Magner and the whole family and the Watchmans and all of that group together. They've produced some of the greatest racehorses in history, and the experience of Olympian, Cian O'Connor and the team around them as well. It's actually, I think it's great for the sport to have that coming together. But Cian here, again, doing the right thing. He's getting the horse experience here. He's giving it a good ride to finish off well, and as like we've said so many times tonight, nice shot at the last and leaves them with confidence coming out of this.
Yeah, you can see after, having some of those rails down, he actually kind of started to leave the horse alone a little bit and let it figure out its own shape instead of hold its hand. And it kind of caught on a fence 9 and then kind of pulled itself together through the last couple fences.
Leaves us just 2 left to go into this first round. And as you say, I mean, that's where an experienced horseman there is also figuring out what do I do or don't do to make this work.
Yeah, and a horse like that just looks like a very quick on takeoff. It has this normal stride, and right on takeoff, gets really quick and darty at the fence. You know, after having a few of those down, he actually kind of drops the horse at the base and lets it figure it out itself out. And then those last few fences, you really saw it slow down off the ground and saw the real shape.
A sparkly Charlotte Jacobs and the North Stars, Rinkula Milchon. Again, fantastic talk about team around them as well. And with Mum and Dad, with Lou and Joan and the whole Jacobs family in support, and of course husband Matt these days as well. She as well, Nations Cup. She was on to the Nations Cup, Senior Nations Cup in Vancouver last year. That was into her first 5-star Nations Cup. Good performance there for Team USA as well. Season before that went on to that Portuguese-Spanish tour as well. And she's been really moving up. And I picked her out last year saying, watch her together. And she's, again, built up several horses that are capable of jumping these big tracks. She was, of course, second in that WEF Challenge Cup earlier on this week and finished top 6 in the World Cup qualifier in Las Vegas.
Yeah, again, the family is such a great family, super supportive, and just really supportive of the sport in general. You know, Joan really stepped up and started doing some breeding of her own. She's had some great progeny come out through those young horse classes, also helped sponsor some of those classes to help give some of those U.S.-based breeders a chance of developing their own horses and not just importing overseas.
But this is a horse I really like. I mean, it almost has a little bit of pony about it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is such a fun horse, kind of like we talked about that chestnut mare, a little bit of a scrapper. You know, she's done a great job kind of holding him back a little bit, keeping him in some of those 2-stars, and now really started to see what he's got in the tank. You know, we know he has so much blood.
Oh,
that's too bad.
That was a shame.
So much blood, so much talent. But sometimes you got to contain that talent, and you know, he's so confident of himself. You want to keep that confidence.
Just finishes with the last fence down, going into 13th position, 75-60 for Charlotte Jacobs there, and Rinkula Milchon just having another little look at the last fence. Takes off well, just scrambles behind.
Yeah, it just kind of looks like the horse misjudged the back rail a little bit, kind of second-guessed himself over top of it, just stuck those legs through.
So it leaves us just one left to come, and we're back into the world's top 20 with Dara Kenny, world number 17 right now, the HKC Collections Irwin. And Irwin, another one that's really being moved up a gear from that point of view, won the WEF Challenge Cup, won a National Grand Prix here a few weeks ago. HKC Collection, of course, of Tina and Jonathan Yates there as well. Experience between both of those, Tina many times in the saddle herself, and with the huge experience of Dara Kenny now in the saddle for this horse and letting him run with this one. It's going to be really interesting to see, because again, this is another step up for this horse too. But Dara doesn't leave many stones unturned. Yeah,
agreed. And you know, this is such a beautiful horse, such a beautiful type. The way he moves across the ground, and such a correct jumping style. You know, this is definitely one of the ones that I wanted to watch tonight, and just seems to kind of keep getting better and better. It's a younger horse, but he just looks so much more experienced out there, and again, under Dara's tutelage.
He's a little bit less experienced, but he's 11 years of age now by canon, but yes, hasn't necessarily had a lot of mileage there.
Yeah, and he jumped amazing in the Thursday class, and just studies that oxer a little bit. Again, you know, the difference of day to night. But again, someone like Dara really giving him that confidence, keep pushing forward through that, and again, we see that newer fence kind of arise, or a new problem arise with that fence, just having that front rail. You know, he backed off the oxer before, and I think Dara was just thinking to kind of keep riding him forward into that one. Just misjudged it.
Yeah, going to leave him on forward, 73.85. He had the prime spot. He jumped forward earlier on in the week, and as I say, that's going to be the interesting thing, watching the WEF Challenge Cups now as well, in that is going to have a big influence. But it doesn't quite pay off this time for Dara. But overall, as we said, the horse that hasn't done a lot of this, hasn't really been under the lights like this, you'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very delicate light touch. I think he ended up 11th, so still in the money. I'd say that's a very successful round, and that horse is only going to get better. Yep,
sits in 11th place there for Dara Kenny as the last out. So it means we have 7 going into the jump-off, and this is what it looks like, starting off strong. McLean Ward, Kent Farrington, Ben Mayer. Spencer Smith follows after that. Tiffany Foster after that. Philip McGuane of Ireland is going to start coming here punching for the Irish this time, and there's a new name in there to try and take on this group. And Australia at the tail end with Tyza Irwin, and she will be last out there with Halita B. So looking forward to that jump off. It's going to be a few moments away. We're also going to hear from some of our supporting sponsors as well in the meantime as part of this Southern Arches Grand Prix. Thank you very much for joining us here on the live stream, brought to you by Dodd Technologies and presented in part with the support of US Equestrian Federation and USEF Network. Ali Wolf and I will be back for the jump off in just a moment.
¿Ves que tiene unas personas que esas tiritas y esas tiritas? Sí. No las cuando esa arena puro tipo que la zona de la arena para que caigan. Uno lo pisa y es se une un poquito.
Doors lead us to places we've never been.
Las tiritas estas es de
Your
la
dedicated fidelity advisor can help you open those doors.
Eso, ¿ves?
They can help you create a retirement income plan designed to balance growth and guarantee income, and provide access to specialists who help with estate planning to look out for future generations. So you're not just growing and protecting your wealth, you're sharing it.
Ahora varían y entonces dejan habilitados los saltos que tienen que y ponen unos trampos.
At Deaver Golf Cars, we bring
Claro,
excitement
para
to
que
your golf
piensen
car
que
experience.
unos saltos
We
sí van,
have an
pero ya ellos
extensive
saben
range of new
previamente.
and
Es para que sobre todo el
refurbished
caballo,
our team will fulfill all your sales, service, and rental
los
needs.
que levantan,
Whether
ya
you're
no
teaming
van.
up on the course,
Dejan unos pasos que
cruising
no
through the
saltan
neighborhood,
y ya viene sí el orden.
or at the campground with family and friends, we have options to fit each and every lifestyle.
Y antes les toca hacer eso.
Experience the Deaver difference, built on a tradition of excellence and service since 1978.
You'll know Mars for our confectionery, but also the people behind Buckeye Nutrition and many horse and pet food brands. Our research has been responsible for breakthroughs in animal welfare. In fact, Mars has been part of the equestrian community for almost 90 years. We sponsor events like Kentucky and badminton, work with riders like Andrew Hoy, Lauren Nicholson, Ben May. We even named one of our most famous brands after a horse. Mars Equestrian, building a better world for horses, pets, and people.
With NetJets, travel will always be personal. We do everything it takes to make every flight exceptional. Every single detail of your experience is personalized, just for you. As our standard is not just to meet our definition of perfection, it's to exceed yours.
De pronto este queda y solamente lo abrieron así.
Ah, es que están regalando tonteras.
De pronto este queda, sí, mira, este queda y era para mientras que pasaban los...
Porque ese no lo saltaron antes, saltaban el de al lado.
Ese es de lo que puede ser que sea trampa, vamos a ver. Que saben cuál es el recorrido, es el armador y se los dice a ellos. A veces los dejan recorrer antes caminando. Ah, mira, esa es trampa, sí, porque tiene esas cositas ahí parecidas. Bueno.
Pues sí, porque no creo que
Y
con
ese
las
es
cositas.
doble. O sea, si lo dejan es doble porque tiene, que es de los más bravos. Porque es doble salto.
Más largo.
Es más largo. Sí, eso es lo que de pronto lo van a dejar.
¿Cómo se ve el caballo que más largo?
Porque al jinete le toca irlo llevando.
Sí, puta, pero...
Y sostenerlo en el aire.
Eso es el jinete el que hace eso.
Pues el caballo ya te ve, pero el jinete es el que le...
Claro, pero si los portes están al frente...
¿Qué tipo de...?
Mi mujer no es capaz de levantar ni la mano.
La mía tampoco.
Mire la vergüenza.
La mía tampoco es una... que les den. Yo si hubiera hecho así, denme una cachucha de esas.
Es más, mi mujer se fue a llevar la suegra al baño, pero no.
Well, getting set for the jump off here for this Southern Arches Grand Prix tonight. We're going to take a look at the course as well of what has been set by Nick Granite for that jump off. It's been a really interesting first round, like we've said all along. At the risk of repeating ourselves, a well spread group of fences down, but Fidelity Investments kindly sponsor our animation, and let's take a little tour of it for the jump off here tonight for this Southern Arches showdown. Looking very interesting indeed, with 7 of them going into it. Under the bridge we swing, and we start over a new fence on course this time. We're going over near the table bank, those familiar with the arena, to fence 15 to start us off at the Wellington International fence. Then to the Mars fence, what was the Liverpool, I think that's been taken away now, looking down. 8A and B. That is going across the centre to that teal double, which is 153 on the way out in the previous round. Right up the arena now to fence 4, so no wall this time. That was what was on that related line, and to the orange fence up there, and that was 150, 160 in spread. Taking you down the arena to just the first part of what was the triple combination at 5A, just over the 150 mark there. Turned back to what was fence 1 over in front of the International Club, and then new fence 16, Southern Arches fence with the gate to complete at the last fence 16, going up to the tail end of the arena, so finishing at the opposite end of the arena this time. So that'll take them on a circuit around this international arena. We're going to take you on a tour of those in the jump off as well. Our thanks to Fidelity Investments, their support each week for our animations. And it's going to be McLean Ward, Kent Farrington, Ben Mayer, Spencer Smith, there you go, Tiffany Foster of Canada, Philip McGuane of Ireland, and Tyser Irwin of Australia. Alongside me is Ali Wolf. Ali, I can assess this all day, but what's very obvious from this is pace is going to come early.
Exactly, and like you said, you're taking a tour of the entire ring. You know, I think it's a little bit suited to horses with a little bigger stride, the ones that cover ground really, really well. There's no super, super tight turnbacks. But again, you see some horses in here that have a shorter stride. They're just very quick across the ground. I'm looking at Kent Farrington, even Philip McGuane's horse. And then it's
I'm actually going to look at Ben Mayer, having seen him
that's true.
ride the World Cup qualifier on this horse in London a few weeks ago as well. Yeah, Philip McGuane's horse, you were going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of rooting for that one. I really, really love, you know, those types of horses, the big fighters, those little scrappy fighters. But I know that it is, you know, getting the experience for horse and rider, so it's going to be interesting to see how much of a risk he takes. But, you know, you see Ken Farrington do things that he didn't think were possible. But, again, you can't count out McLean or Ben. And then, you know, with the long partnerships of Spencer and then it's anyone's game.
So that was a fantastic assessment. We managed to list everybody on the list. Okay, come on, get off the fence, get the splinters out. Where are you going?
I'm going for Kent.
There you go, Kent Farrington there, going second. And if you watch the pair going, he's got Tulane. If you watch them in Geneva back in December, you wouldn't be going too far away from them, because they will be flying. Literally flying from that.
I mean, that horse covers so much. It has a shorter stride, so you wouldn't think, but it covers so much ground. So much ground, and it's quite quick across the jumps. Doesn't spend much time in the air.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to go in a Ben Mayer direction, getting close to that world number 1 spot.
I'd
be very interested to see what happens when the February rankings come out, whether he has moved ahead of Henrik von Eckermann, and only because I saw Anjou in action a few weeks ago. But I like you, would like to see something coming down to this tail end as well. Philip McGuane in there, and Tyser Owen too. So yeah, we're picking out names, but actually we would like the lot of them.
Exactly. I don't think you can
one
really
of this
go
group
wrong
is going to win. Yeah, one of this group is going to win, but I think it'll certainly come pressure from the front, and McLean Ward will know that and slam it down straight from the start.
Yeah, and especially with that horse, I know he's done a lot of the speed classes with that horse, so obviously no stranger to speed, and that horse is very quick across the ground, very fast. But yeah, again, and you know, when you have 7 horses in the jump off, it's kind of nice. You know you're guaranteed prize money. You can take a little shot, have a little bit of fun, see what your horse is all about.
Well, let's see, because McLean Ward is coming under the bridge, and up goes the barrier, and David Burton drops it down in position, and McLean with Robin Parsky's first lady start things off. Will they be in first position at the end of this? We will see. It is whittled down to 7 of them competing for the $140,000. Well, a share of that here tonight. We've got a group from 8th through to 12th that have already got their piece, including Caitlin Connors, who finished on the 1-time fault, and Hannah Selleck, who finished in 9th on the 2-time. McLean Ward now, the world number 9, to really lay it down here. But again, it's a lovely flowing course, as we mentioned. There's not a lot there to really make you put the brakes on, is there? You can actually have a good attack at this.
Exactly, and I think that's what's going to maybe win the class. You know, not necessarily turning, okay, there's no super tight turn backs, but not necessarily turning so tight back on something, but just keeping that gallop everywhere. And it's hard to see. I was just wondering if they still cut that Liverpool underneath. It almost...
Which fence were you looking at?
Number 4, that oxer in the back.
I think it's been taken away.
There's definitely something under there that could
be
looked at.
Yeah, maybe it is still there. It was certainly being taken away from the Mars fence, from the vertical there. Let's get going. Okay, new fence. 15, McLean Ward away with First Lady.
Yeah, a nice bending 8. That's kind of what I walked. He put a nice curve in it so we can kind of come back on this double here. Get a big gallop. You don't want to turn super tight back on this. They still kept the liver tray underneath that. And then this was a really delicate vertical. And then a very awkward roll back. You know, the more angle you got on that vertical previous, the worse the turn would show up on that roll back to fence number 1.
But it is going to do exactly what we said. It's going to be a very fast start. 37.49 for McLean Ward. How do you rate that, Ali?
I would say probably an A+.
Is it catchable, is my point.
I think it's a little bit catchable. You know, maybe kind of covering ground to the Liverpool. I know he went a little bit wide to the Liverpool, but then it made him have such a great shot back on the vertical. Honestly, I think where he can get caught is just with foot speed, with another horse that's just a little bit quicker across the ground. They could do the same exact strides, but just the quickness.
Like this one.
Like this one.
Like this one. Tulena and Kent Farrington for himself and the Rabbit Root Stables. This fabulous 10-year-old mare. 37.49 time to beat. McLean was landing over the last but won the penultimate fence in 30 seconds. So we're getting little gauge as they're going to the last, and McLean has set the pace. Kent hits the gas.
Same bend in that 8 strides, and maybe a little bit wider here. Oh. Comes in just, I think, a little bit hot into that double and just kind of trails the hind end. And just kind of takes the foot off the gas a little bit.
Yeah.
Wants to still be competitive, but not at the risk of another. And again, that's a really awkward roll back.
Again, it's almost, you can make as much space to it as you want, but to really achieve it, there we go, 41.90 from Ken Farrington, Tulane. Like you say, he did back off that a little bit once they'd had a rail from that point of view, so finishes on the 4. McLean Ward setting the pace at 37.49.
Yeah, that was too bad. Just came in with a little bit of heat there, but yeah, like we were talking about, that roll back to that last line, you know, the more severe you put an angle on that vertical, the worse your turn back is. So it's very strategic. You know, you want to get right over to it, but the more you get right over to it, the worse the turn on the backside is going to be. So
a little bit of what you'd sort of see indoors, a little bit more than you'd see outdoors from that point of view. But, you know, it's there, as I say, it's as much space as you want to put on it. Ben Mayer, winner indoors. The World Cup qualifier with Anjou de Grécian. They were second in the World Cup qualifier in Madrid as well, with Charlotte Roster and Pamela Wrights. French-bred gelding by Toulon.
Added a stride more than Kent and McLean. And again, coming from an indoor going to a huge outdoor ring, it's interesting to kind of see you know, what the difference is. He might be a little bit quick and pinging off the walls of the indoor, but maybe not such a big stride in the outdoors. Now he's making up a lot of time.
Yeah. Which is exactly what he did in London. He lands there a second ahead of McLean Ward. Ben Mayer, Anjou de Grisian, 37.49 to beat, and he's going to take that to 36.87. So Ben Mayer, Anjou de Grisian will go into the lead. I might just say, what did I say?
I was literally going to discount you after the second fence. I mean, he added the stride. Was a little bit kind of slow or just on the pace of McLean, but again, adding that one stride to that second fence, clearly he knows the horse well. And then, I mean, he made up all the time on the last 3 fences.
Yeah.
That was quite the slice there.
So Ben Mayer in front, looking to start the year well. Could he be up to the number 1 spot by the time we get to February 2? And next one's going to start standing in his way. We've got the 3 big guns fired early on with McLean Ward, Kent Farrington and Ben Mayer. But this man is a 5-star Grand Prix winner in his own right and a WEF Grand Prix winner, is Spencer Smith, the 27-year-old. Now upcoming with Theodore Marseille. Older horse at 17. As I say, he's had a bit of a break over the winter months, but should be fresh and ready to go.
Yeah, again, you can never discount this pair. Spencer's always going to give it a go. And this horse is kind of deceivingly fast. It turns really well. He's definitely not one to count out.
Okay, putting him on the spot. Where did they make it up? Well, I suppose you could say if you could hold the same sort of pace as Ben did in the last part of the course, which is not easy. Ben obviously added a stride early on.
Yeah, I would say just having to leave out that stride there. And then do the exact same track as Ben for those last three fences. You know, didn't quite find maybe the distance he wanted into that double. Horse just slowing up a little bit to jump that. Maybe not as quick across the ground as maybe McLean or Ben.
Yeah, he's having to really try there. Lands in 31.
It's a good slice back on that one, though. And again, he is deceivingly fast. I just don't think fast enough.
It's a good round, 38-31, and we'll go into third place for Spencer Smith and Theodore Marseille. But again, you just want that continuous flowing motion, don't you?
Exactly, and I think where Ben's horse kind of takes him to the fence and up and over the fence, this one kind of rocks back to give you a nice jump, which is great, which is what you want.
Yeah.
Just maybe hinders you a little bit for the time's sake in the jump off.
Because you're talking fractions.
Exactly.
We're not talking even whole seconds, we're talking fractions a lot of the time. Tiffany Foster and Northern Lights. Now for the big moment. Now she's got plenty of Grand Prix behind her now. She got her 5-star Grand Prix behind her last year as well. She's Olympics, Pan Ams, all the rest of it. Just go.
You have nothing left to lose at this point, and especially, you know, this is a faster, quicker horse. If she really wants to test it out for circuit, I mean, now is the time to do it. And she's gearing up for that. Gets the 8, maybe not on as much of a bend to continue coming, and then kind of gets a little bit of a wider turn. Same thing, she found that distance a little bit easy, pushed through the front rail just a hair. Rubbed that, but got away with it. And at this point, you know, she's probably taking her foot off the gas a little bit, just medium, but also still wants to kind of push a little bit. You want to get some prize money.
Yeah, the difference between spots can be quite a bit.
A lot.
Yes. Especially once we get into the 5-star Grand Prix, you can be talking $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 between spots. So whether you keep hustling or not makes a difference. Goes into fourth at 39.40, so was quicker than that of Kent Farrington, of course, was the other four-faulter in the game so far. So Tiffany Foster going into fourth. Spencer Smith is in third. McLean Ward in second. Ben Mayer leading on 36.87 so far. 2 left to go. Nice turn up here.
Yeah, they're actually all finding a quick roll back to that one. A few light touches on the back poles. I don't know if he narrowed it at all, but he definitely made it square. what was the original first fence.
Big moments now for Philip McGuane and the Evergate Stables Orphea HQ. A horse that hasn't really been proven at this point yet. So he's in a little bit of uncharted territory here, but he's super producer of the young horses as well for the Evergate team. And this is nice for him to have a big moment here too.
Yeah, exactly. And he can, with a horse like this, he can just go kind of nice and know that the quickness of the horse is going to make him competitive. Gets the 8 done. Starts to steady, maybe a little bit early. Same thing, has that front rail. They just don't seem to be quite meeting that how they want. A little bit deep and then try to push for that back rail and then end up having that front pole. A little bit of a wider turn here.
Overall, very good round there, going hopefully faster than 39.4 to put him ahead of Tiffany Foster. Yes, he does that, 38.61, so puts himself into 4th place there for Philip McGuane and Orphea HQ. And Ali, you'd have to say he's done a great job today.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's going to really help him down the line in the Grand Prix to come later this circuit. He kind of gets to test the ability of his horse at quicker speeds. Okay, he had a rail, but I think the horse got a little bit smarter because of that.
Australia versus Great Britain. There's a little hint of the Ashes here now, and Tyser Irwin and Michael and Wendy Smith's Hialeah B stands in the way of Ben Mayer winning the first International Grand Prix of the season here in Wellington. It's not done yet. Another one by Emerald, in fact.
Yeah, and these chestnut mares, they always get a bad rap, but they're fighters. They really are fighters. They're scrappy too, and this one you can definitely tell she's got a lot of power. It just depends on whether where Tyza wants to go and how far she wants to push her. I think she wants to just be a little bit cautious.
Yeah. Yeah. You would say early on Ben has got this done.
But we've seen a lot have that fence down, so, if you're...
Oh, a solid spot. I mean, we've got 3 double clears.
Exactly.
So exactly, clear, worst you are is top 4 and a chance to go even top 3.
I think at this point maybe 4th if we can kind of keep it together. And again, it's a lot of horse. She has a lot of power. I know it is a strong horse, so I don't think she really wants to let her out of the box too much.
Brings her home at 44.67 and steadier there, but nicely into 4th place for Tyser Irwin of Australia and Hialeah B. And probably, for what they want, was a very smart round.
Exactly. It looks like she stuck to the plan that she wanted going in, gave the horse a great round. Maybe she's aiming for next week. She doesn't want to let her out of the box, have a crazy horse to deal with on the WEF classes. But hats off to you and your judgment.
There we go. It's only because I was watching them a few weeks ago in the live in London. Ben Mayer is the winner, Anjou de Grécien, and takes home the first big win of the season for Pam Wright and Charlotte Roster, owner of Anjou. Just 10. Went superbly as a 9-year-old, as I say, 2nd in Madrid, 1 in London as well. And Ben Mayer continues his rise. I think we're staring down a number 1 position, not only in this class, but in those world rankings as well. Ben Mayer top, McLean Ward in 2nd with First Lady. Really good start from them. They were first out of the blocks and gave it a very good effort. Spencer Smith finishing top 3 there. And again, you have to say, very well done to Philip McGuane there of Ireland with the Evergate Stables team's ride, who he again has delivered well there. Tyser Irwin, really solid round, smart from her to finish into the top group. And in fact, just going to switch those around because officially it is Tyser in 4th place, of course, with the clear, and 5th place to Philip McGuane. So they're just the other way around there. 6th place to Tiffany Foster in Northern Lights. 7th place to Kent Farrington, and Tulane just having the 4 faults. But I have a feeling tonight was not their night, but there will plenty of other nights for them as well. Caitlin Connors finishing in 8th place with the 1 time fault from the previous round. Hannah Selleck with a couple of time faults there as well. Really solid there with Cloud and finishing top 10. And Luciana Locio of Brazil as well, top 10, which was another of those that I picked out a little bit earlier on. Ali.
Just to put the jab in there.
Just getting it in there from that point of view. But you've given all the great expert advice. Ali Wolf, thank you so much for joining us tonight. What's in store for you over the next few weeks, apart from riding lots of horses and training?
Lots of horses and training.
Excellent. Good. That's what we like to hear. Well done to Ben Mayer. The presentation is coming up in just a few moments' time for him as well, winning this Southern Archers Grand Prix. But let's, Ali, in the meantime, have a look back at this winning round, and let's get your view on it.
I think he was onto something when he added that, maybe tall verticals. He wanted to be a little bit cautious with this horse, especially with younger horses. If you let them out of the box a little bit early, you kind of lose the control and rideability, and I think that was probably what he was gambling on. That also allowed him to make a little bit of a neater roll back to that double that seemed to take a lot of people, and here is where he really made up so much time, really stretched across the back, really trusted that horse to get across. It was quite incredible, and then just a nice balance to the last.
Fantastic round. Ben Mayer starts off the season well and is our first winner with the Southern Archers Grand Prix tucked under his belt, and a great start to week one. He's won the week one Grand Prix before now. In fact, it's one of those, get these things that pop up on Facebook. I had one of those the other day and I went, when Ben Mayer wins the week one Grand Prix from about 8 years ago. So, Superstar, look at the star names down there. There's going to be a few new names through the season as well to keep a lookout for. Hannah Selleck is one of those. Those time faults are going to disappear, I think, and so we're going to see some great stuff from them. They're really just getting back in their stride. Dara Kenny will feature a lot more through the year, as I think will Natalie Dean as well. So some names to get used to there in that group, and in they come for presentation for our top three in tonight's Southern Archers Grand Prix. Thanks to them. McLean Ward readying for the presentation. Michael Stone, president of the shows here at the Winter Equestrian Festival, and coming forward to be in position on behalf of Southern Archers. Top three horses as well. We'll also get Mainstream Munchies too, thanks to Mainstream as well. Simplifying horse flying. Ben Mayer does his own form of horse flying, but stays on the back of it. Chatting with McLean Ward. Not a bad 1-2 to start off the season. There. Spencer Smith finishing in third with Theodore Marseillet. And second place to McLean Ward with Robin Parsky's First Lady. Starting off the charge. And then winner of this $140,000 Southern Archers Grand Prix here this evening, starting off what will hopefully be a fantastic season. It was a really tough start to the season last year for Ben. Had an horrendous fall, was out for months, and has come back so strong, and it's great to see him back in the saddle, doing so well here in Wellington. What a start, winning with Charlotte Rosters and Pamela Wright's Anjou de Grecienne, following on from that run that was so successful in London. Just a 9-year-old then, really probably still into that age group now, has tipped into 10, and a big year ahead of them as well. So that's great to see.
Big lead line year ahead.
Big lead line as well. Cooper is coming up.
Got maybe a new pony.
Maybe this weekend, I think, might be the big one.
So
yes.
He bought all the clothes. I saw her there.
Yep.
So he is all dressed and ready.
Yeah. Sophie's got them all ready to go. Ben will be in a proud moment, but a proud moment now as they go for the playing of the national anthem of Great Britain. First playing of the season of God Save the King, as it is now. And the king of the ring is Ben Mayer for tonight's class anyway, but behind him is a man who's been king here many times as well. The WEF lineup for tonight, it is congratulations to Ben Mayer and Anjou de Grecienne. Second place to McLean Ward and First Lady. Top 3 for Spencer Smith and Theodore Marseillet. Ben Mayer claims the first Grand Prix of the circuit as they head off on their lap of honour. We've got presentations coming up to leading grooms and our leading international rider award as well, which is kindly presented by Martha Jolicoeur. But the man of the moment in the spotlight, Anjou de Grecienne, continues a fantastic run, an amazing string of horses that he's got to work with right now, but that's because it is all about having produced it with great talent. Is he going to be number 1 at the start of next month? We'll wait and see. Ali Wolves, thank you very much for joining us. We'll let you get back to real work now, but it's been always a pleasure to work with. Super stuff. Congratulations to Ben. And the presentation of the International Leading Rider Award, presented by Martha Jolicoeur, and Tyser Owen receiving that award. Congratulations to her, and well done. And joined by Stephen Norton to make the presentation. Tyser Owen claims this week's International Leading Rider. So that wraps things up here from a Saturday night, and our first Grand Prix night here in Wellington, and we're going to be back next week. In fact, we're on the turf, so Grand Prix will be on the Sunday. There'll be a National Grand Prix on Saturday night. Join us for that. There's going to be some exciting stuff coming up with that as well. Some new faces, some new horses, all in the spotlight here on a Saturday night. From all of us here in the team, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.